Welcome back to Ronin Recap. Now on to the next chapter.
All the relatives and villagers were confused when they saw the cars. They all looked at Lin Tao and Lin Liqiang. However, how would Lin Tao and Lin Liqiang know what the situation was? They were also filled with confusion. Could it be relatives of old man Wang's family? Someone asked in a low voice. As soon as these words were spoken, many people revealed a hint of hesitation. They were hesitating whether they should go to the Wang family's house. Although they did not know the specific models and prices of these cars, they recognized the logo of Mercedes-Benz and BMW in front of the cars. They were all expensive luxury cars. They were all distinguished guests. So many important guests. Creak. Creak. While some of the villagers were hesitating, the car door slowly opened. Men and women in suits and leather shoes, dressed in gorgeous clothes, came down one after another. Among them, the round-faced and good-natured middle-aged man, Wang Zhengde, strode in front of Lin Fan and said respectfully, "Hello, Mr. Lin." More than a month ago, Lin Fan had become the group leader of Qiankuan Building after gaining majority shares. In the group, there was Wang Zhengde, the property manager, and the boss of the company who rented the office building. Yesterday, after Lin Fan found out that his grandfather was going to hold his 70th birthday banquet, he immediately sent out an invitation to the companies in Qiankuan Building. The bosses of those companies had long been full of curiosity about the boss of Qiankuan Building. Therefore, when they saw the invitation, unless they were out of town or had something urgent, they all rushed over. After the bosses heard Wang Zhengde's words, they could not help but secretly size up Lin Fan. Lin Fan smiled and nodded, then introduced, "This is my grandfather. So you're the birthday boy today, Elder Lin," Wang Zhengde said immediately. "If Mr. Lin didn't tell me, I would have thought you were his uncle." This sentence was a compliment. However, it also somewhat contained the truth. That was because Lin Liqiang's mental state was good. In addition, he had just drunk the medical water, so he was even more energetic. At this time, Lin Liqiang, Lin Tao, and the villagers finally understood that the people who came out of the luxury cars were all here to celebrate Lin Liqiang's birthday, not Wang Yaping's. Lin Liqiang could not help but ask, "You are?" "Look at me. I haven't introduced myself yet." Wang Zhengde quickly said, "I'm the property manager of Qiankuan Building. Elder Lin, I wish you good fortune and longevity." As he spoke, he handed over a longevity peach made of pure gold. Behind Wang Zhengde, a middle-aged man in a black suit handed him a golden lock and said, "I'm the chairman of Rueda Corporation, Liang Feiyang. Elder Lin, I wish you a long and healthy life, and good fortune." Beside him, a man in a white shirt handed him a red packet and said, "I'm the chairman of Yangluan Company, Zhuojun Elder Lin, I wish you good health and all the best." Instantly, a wave of congratulatory sounds rang out. Everyone's mouth was half open when they heard this, and their faces were full of surprise. When these people got out of their luxury cars, everyone had already guessed that they were of extraordinary status. However, after hearing their well wishes and self-introductions, they realized that they were all bosses of companies. One had to know that there were more than a dozen people who had just come. In other words, more than a dozen company bosses came to congratulate Lin Liqiang? It was simply unimaginable. When the last person's introduction and blessings were over, Lin Liqiang finally came back to his senses. He laughed heartily and said, "This is great. Thank you. Please sit down and have some tea. The banquet is about to begin." Some of the elders sat down, while some chatted in low voices. Others were quietly observing the surrounding environment. At first, the bosses did not think much of it. This was because it seemed to be just an ordinary one-story house in a village. They could not help but have some doubts in their hearts. Was this really the hometown of the behind-the-scenes boss of Chin Kuan Building? Was he not a little too ordinary? At this moment, two bosses heard the sound of people cooking and cutting vegetables. They turned their heads to take a look. It would have been better if they had not taken a look, but after they did, they could not peel their eyes away. The three chefs were waving their knives like shadows as they cooked quickly. How sharp were the eyes of the CEOs? At a glance, they could tell that the three chefs' cooking skills were very good. They were probably comparable to the average 4-star or even 5-star chefs. This was nothing. The key point was, the ingredients they were cooking included top-grade pork, shrimp, and beef. Especially when they saw the logo of Big Pot Market on the bags, the corners of their eyes twitched. They knew very well how expensive the ingredients in Big Pot Market were. That was a place known as Market Number 1. Even they had only been there once or twice. The dishes of this banquet were all made from Big Pot Market. How much did these ingredients cost? Gulp. The two bosses could not help but swallow their saliva. Lin Xiaoyao saw that so many people had come to celebrate her grandfather's birthday. She was also the host, so she should entertain them well. Generally speaking, if the banquet had not started yet, the guests should be allowed to play cards for entertainment. Unfortunately, there were no cards in the house. Lin Xiaoyao's eyes darted around, and soon, her gaze fell on the jade chess set not far away. Hence, she quickly walked up to the CEOs with the chess set in her arms and asked, "Do you guys want to play chess?" A CEO in a black suit was about to wave his hand. The next moment, his entire body froze, and his eyes were locked on the chess set. In fact, he was not the only one. Many of the other CEOs were also focused on the chess set. "It looks like jade?" someone said with uncertainty. The CEO in a blue shirt who was the closest did not say anything. He reached out with a trembling hand, picked up a chess piece, and looked at it carefully. After a long while, he said seriously, "It's jade. Moreover, it's high-grade jade." As soon as he said that, all the bosses around him gasped. One must know that the company of this blue-shirt CEO was in the jewelry industry. He could be said to be an expert in the appraisal of jewelry and jade. He would definitely not be wrong. All the bosses present had a certain level of knowledge. They knew that some people use jade as bracelets, and some people use jade as pendants. However, this was the first time they had seen someone use jade to make a chess set. How much would such a set of chess cost? 10 million? 20 million? After buying such a chess set, they should put it in a safe to admire it secretly, right? However, the owner just took it out and let it be played like a normal chess set? This was a jade chess set. If it accidentally fell, how painful would it be? Whoosh! At this moment, Lin Xiaoyao lost her grip and a chess piece fell from the chessboard to the ground. Lin Xiaoyao's face was relaxed and unconcerned. The pupils of the CEOs sitting nearby contracted, and a thin layer of sweat appeared on their foreheads. They hurriedly stood up to catch the chess piece. This was a jade chess piece. A single chess piece would probably cost over $1 million. Lin Xiaoyao seemed to have noticed the reactions of the CEOs. She reached out and caught the chess piece that was falling to the ground. Seeing this, all the CEOs heaved a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat off their foreheads. Do any of you want to play chess? Lin Xiaoyao asked. Play with a jade chess set? In that case, would they not run the risk of some chess pieces falling off? I won't play. Put away the chess set. Yes, put it in a better place. All the CEOs spoke up and shook their heads. Lin Xiaoyao's pretty face was filled with a strange expression. If you don't want to play, then don't play. Why are you in such a hurry to put the chess set away? Lin Xiaoyao took the chess set and placed it next to the door. Seeing this, all the CEOs looked at each other. A jade chess set that was worth tens of millions was just placed at the door? At this moment, the sound of cars rumbling could be heard in the distance. Then, 1, 2, 3. Another large group of luxury cars drove over. Finally, they stopped in front of everyone. Then, just like before, many men and women in formal clothes came down. Lin Fan had seen one of them before. He was the general manager of Yinshan Mall in Qing City, Zhou Chengjun. Yesterday, Lin Fan and the three chefs were in Qing City. Coincidentally, he met Zhou Chengjun, who was accompanying a client. At that time, Zhou Chengjun was extremely excited. After some conversation, Lin Fan told him about his grandfather's 70th birthday. Therefore, Zhou Chengjun expressed on the spot that he would definitely go and congratulate them. After Zhou Chengjun and Lin Fan parted ways, he reported this matter to the chairman of Yinshan Group, Song Jifeng. Song Jifeng had always valued Lin Fan. He had never seen Lin Fan before despite Lin Fan being the biggest shareholder. Therefore, when he found out that Lin Fan's grandfather's birthday was coming up, he did not hesitate at all. He immediately led the company's upper management and took a flight to Qing City overnight. Song Jifeng did not want Lin Fan to have other thoughts just because he did not attend the birthday party. What if this caused Lin Fan to suddenly intervene in the affairs of Yinshan Group? Then it would be too late for regrets. Hello, Mr. Lin. We finally meet. Song Jifeng said as he walked up to Lin Fan. As soon as he finished speaking, he took the initiative to extend his right hand. Lin Fan had never seen Song Jifeng before. However, when he saw Zhou Chengjun standing beside him and being so respectful to him, he had a guess in his heart. Hello, he said. Hello, Mr. Lin. The executives standing next to Song Jifeng all greeted him respectfully. They did not dare to look down on Lin Fan just because he was young. One must know that Lin Fan was the biggest shareholder of Yinshan Group. As long as he was dissatisfied with them, they could be fired immediately. This is my grandfather. Lin Fan nodded. Hello, Elder Lin. I wish you good health and all the best. Song Jifeng said hurriedly. At the same time, he handed over an exquisite jade Buddha. Lin Liqiang hesitantly accepted the gift and said, "Thank you, thank you." "And you are?" "Oh, my name is Song Jifeng. I'm the chairman of Yinshan Group," Song Jifeng said. Not long ago, Lin Liqiang had already met a lot of CEOs. Therefore, his reaction to this was not too big. Wang Zhongda and the other CEOs who were standing not far away all widened their eyes with horror written all over their faces. They were indeed the bosses of various companies, but there was simply no way to compare their companies with Yinshan Group. Yinshan Group was a large enterprise with a market value of tens of billions. The chairman of such a large company had actually come personally to offer his birthday congratulations. Furthermore, there was even a hint of flattery in his tone. Sure enough, the boss behind Shenkuan Building was really amazing. "I'm the general manager of Yinshan Group, Xiang Ligua. Elder Lin, I wish you good fortune and longevity. I'm Yinshan Group's investment director, Yi Qing. Elder Lin, I wish you all the best." After Song Jifeng's birthday wishes, the senior executives of Yinshan Group also gave their blessings and handed red packets or gifts. Zhou Qingjun, who had the lowest status at the scene, finally said, "I'm Zhou Qingjun, the general manager of Yinshan Mall in Qing City. Old Master Lin, I wish you all the best." As soon as he said that, the expressions of the surrounding CEOs did not change. After all, the chairman of Yinshan Group and all the senior executives were here. This mere general manager of Yinshan Group could not impress them. However, some of the villagers cried out in surprise. "I thought he looked familiar. He's the general manager of Qing City's Yinshan Mall. Qing City News even reported about him a while ago. Amazing. Even the general manager of Yinshan Mall is here to old man Lin's birthday. Why hasn't old Zhang's family come yet? I'll make a call to rush him. Where's old Song's family?" Then, the villagers took out their mobile phones and dialed the number of people they were familiar with. In fact, they knew that old Zhang, old Song, and the others were celebrating Wang Yaping's birthday. This was based on their village's custom, so there was nothing much to say. However, did the Lin family not have even more distinguished guests now? Of course. It was time to let these people come to the Lin family to celebrate old man Lin's birthday. At this time, in the west of the village, in Wang Yaping's home, a meaty aroma slowly wafted out of the kitchen. The villagers sat together. They smelled the fragrance and chatted with more enthusiasm. At this moment, someone's phone rang loudly. The man answered the call. "What? Are you telling the truth? Alright, I'll come over now." Then, without even saying anything to anyone, he left. Others started receiving calls too. Those who did not pick up the calls either pulled their friends to ask and were full of curiosity. Then, they followed them out. After a while, almost half of the people left Wang Yaping's house, and there were still people walking out. The originally crowded scene immediately became empty. Wang Yaping also noticed this and frowned. "What are they doing? I'll go ask," a middle-aged man said. Very quickly, the middle-aged man returned with an unsightly expression. They said that there are 10 to 20 luxury cars parked in front of old Lin's house. A total of more than a dozen CEOs came to offer their congratulations. Even the general manager of Yinshan Mall in Qing City came, so... The middle-aged man did not finish his sentence, but Wang Yaping already understood. According to the village's principle, those villagers must have felt that Lin Liqiang's house had more distinguished guests, so they prioritized the Lin family more. Wang Yaping looked at the villagers who were leaving, and his face was extremely ugly. The reason why he chose to hold his birthday banquet today was that he wanted to step on Lin Liqiang. By now, most of the villagers had gone to Lin Liqiang's house. Would that not make him a joke instead? At this moment, Wang Yaping even had the urge to cancel his 70th birthday celebration. At this moment, many villagers had already arrived at Lin Liqiang's house. They looked at the long row of luxury cars in the distance, their faces full of surprise. There was still a difference between hearing about it and seeing it with their own eyes. When they saw Lin Liqiang, they cupped their hands and greeted him. "Greetings, old birthday boy. Old birthday boy, you're so energetic today." Lin Liqiang listened to the greetings of the villagers and was very happy. He laughed heartily. "Thank you, everyone. Thank you." "Please come in and have some water first. Dinner will be ready in a while." At that moment, the tables at the entrance were already filled with Maotai and other beverages. When the villagers saw this, their turbid eyes flickered with a faint light, and they could not help but swallow their saliva. Someone seemed to be worried that their eyes were playing tricks on them and said in a low voice, Is that Maotai? I just checked on my phone. It's a Maotai that costs 5,000 yuan a bottle. Someone said. Hiss. The villagers all gasped and could not wait to sit down. However, in the beginning, only a small number of villagers came, and there were only a few tables at the scene. How could they sit so many people? As a result, some of the villagers quickly returned home to move tables and chairs, while others returned to Wang Yaping's house and quietly moved their tables over. Although they did it quietly, Wang Yaping saw everything. He was so angry that his face turned red, but he was helpless. There was only a small number of villagers who came to Wang Yaping's house to celebrate his birthday. At this time, seeing the villagers returning to move the tables, the small group of people could not help but ask a few questions before more left. After a while, nearly 20 tables were set up in front of Lin Liqiang's house. The villagers and CEOs all sat around the table and talked about everything. The atmosphere was extremely lively. At this moment, 2 Rolls-Royces drove over from a distance. Then, Zhou Guotao, Zhou Shihong, and 4 muscular bodyguards in black suits walked down slowly. The villagers had seen quite a few luxury cars. However, they had never seen such an extended version before. They could not help but look up curiously. In contrast to the villagers' curiosity, Song Jifeng and the other CEOs were surprised, and at the same time, they felt a sense of familiarity. They were surprised. The 2 cars were the extended version of the Rolls-Royce. They were luxury cars that cost millions. As for the sense of familiarity, it came from the old man standing at the very front. The elders felt like they had seen him somewhere before. When Lin Fan saw Zhou Guotao, he was equally surprised. He quickly went up to him and said, Grandpa Zhou, why are you here? After all, Zhou Guotao's status was extraordinary, and he was even older than his grandfather. Now that he had come personally to offer his congratulations, Lin Fan naturally had to give him the greatest respect. Zhou. In the minds of Song Jifeng and the other CEOs, a legendary figure gradually overlapped with the old man in front of them. Everyone's eyes widened, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. It was him. He was the pillar of the Zhou family, Zhou Guotao. That was right. It was him. Beside him was the second son of the Zhou family, Zhou Shihong. Heavens! Lin Fan actually knew someone from the Zhou family. In fact, the old master of the Zhou family had even personally come to congratulate Lin Fan's grandfather. What was Lin Fan's identity? It's your grandfather's birthday. How can I not come? Zhou Guotao laughed heartily. Then, he turned to Lin Liqiang and said, "Brother Lin, I wish you good health and good luck." As he spoke, he handed over a jade scepter. Obviously, Zhou Guotao had seen Lin Liqiang's photo before, so he could recognize him at a glance. Lin Liqiang immediately said, "Thank you, brother. It's really an honor to have an old man like you wish me a happy birthday. How should I address you, brother?" On the one hand, Lin Liqiang also vaguely felt that Zhou Guotao's identity was not ordinary. On the other hand, it was usually the younger people who wished the older people well. Zhou Guotao was obviously older than Lin Liqiang. Therefore, Lin Liqiang did not dare to be arrogant. Zhou Guotao laughed. "Lin Fan saved my life. You can even say that he saved the entire Zhou family. It's brother Lin's birthday, so, of course, I have to come to congratulate you." After a pause, he added, "By the way, my name is Zhou Guotao." As soon as he said this, the hearts of the CEOs standing not far away beat violently again. They had already guessed Zhou Guotao's identity. However, after hearing him admit it, they could not help but be extremely surprised. At the same time, all the CEOs looked at Lin Fan with even more respect. The future of Zhou Guotao's savior would be limitless. At this moment, the sound of cars was heard from afar. Then, 1, 2, 3. Another black mass of cars drove over quickly. Everyone at the scene. Everyone, including Song Jifeng, the CEOs, and all the villagers, stood up when they saw the cars driving over. Their faces were full of disbelief and horror. This was because the front and back of these vehicles were Audi cars, while the cars in the middle were army green jeeps. If it was only that, they would not have such a huge reaction. The key was the license plates of these cars. A 00001, a 00002, a 00003. K00001, K00002, K00003. They all knew what these license plates meant. They were the cars of the leaders of Jiang Province in Qing City. In everyone's eyes, these were not cars at all but a group of immortals. Everyone wanted to go up and welcome them, but they were afraid of colliding with the immortals and gods. They just stood on the spot and looked from afar, their faces at a loss. Swish! Finally, all the cars stopped. Then, a large group of big shots that only existed in the news and newspapers got out of the car. The person standing in front was Elder Qin Weiming, whom Lin Fan had met not long ago. Qin Weiming strode forward and laughed heartily. "Lin Fan, I heard that it's your grandfather's birthday today, so I came over to take a look. I hope I didn't disturb you?" As soon as he said that, everyone present was shocked again. One had to know that the city leaders and the others were all like his lackeys. They all followed this old man. All of this showed how terrifying the old man's identity was. This elderly man was here to offer his congratulations because of Lin Fan? Lin Fan. What was his identity? No one dared to look at Qin Weiming. They could only turn their shocked gazes onto Lin Fan. In fact, Lin Fan did not expect Qin Weiming to come. "We're very happy that you're here," he said with a smile. "How could you be disturbing us?" After all, Lin Fan's original goal was to hold a lively birthday banquet for his grandfather. The more people came, the better it was. Qin Weiming nodded and strode forward. He said to Lin Liqiang, "Greetings. I wish you longevity." Lin Liqiang was also very clear about Qin Weiming's identity. Seeing that he personally came to celebrate his birthday, he said happily, "Thank you, thank you." He had never thought that there would be so many important people coming to his 70th birthday banquet. He was so excited that he did not know what to say. Qin Weiming smiled. "I came in a hurry and didn't prepare any gifts. I wrote a piece of calligraphy as a congratulatory gift. I hope you don't mind." As he spoke, he raised his hand slightly. The middle-aged man beside him opened a scroll. On the scroll, the words happiness and longevity were written in large characters, and there was a signature on the lower right corner, Qin Weiming. After seeing this name, everyone's heart started beating wildly again. Even though they had already guessed that this old man had an extraordinary background, no one expected it to be the legendary Qin Weiming, Elder Qin. He was a famous general who had won every battle. Lin Liqiang used to be a soldier, and the person he admired the most was Qin Weiming. He had never seen Qin Weiming in person before. Qin Weiming had even given him a piece of calligraphy. Lin Liqiang felt like he was in a dream. His entire face was flushed red. He was extremely happy. After a long time, Lin Liqiang's hands trembled as he slowly took the scroll. Then, Qin Weiming turned to Zhou Guotao and smiled. "Guotao, long time no see." In fact, Qin Weiming had his own reasons for coming to the birthday party today. Firstly, Lin Fan had saved his grandson not long ago. Secondly, he had taken a fancy to Lin Fan's abilities. Lin Fan could save people, was a mathematician, was the leader of Dragon Division's Team 10, and so on. Thirdly, he knew that Zhou Guotao was also coming to celebrate his birthday. After some consideration, Qin Weiming came. If the leaders of the Jiang province did not know that Qin Weiming was in their territory, they would not need to accompany him. However, since they knew, they had to follow him. That was why there were so many people this time. As the head of the top family, Zhou Guotao naturally knew Qin Weiming. He smiled and said, "Elder Qin, I thought that the next time I meet you would be National Day." The two old men were chatting at the door, while everyone else stood to the side, not daring to make a sound. At this moment, Qin Weiming asked, "Why are we all standing here? Today's main character is the birthday boy. Let's hurry in and sit down." How would the crowd dare to disobey him? They all responded. However, with so many people here, the tables and chairs were not enough. Hence, the villagers quickly made way and ran towards the west of the village. Soon, they arrived at Wang Yaping's house. At this time, there were more than a dozen tables placed in front of Wang Yaping's house. They were filled with fragrant dishes, but only a few dozen people were sitting there, so it was very empty. Wang Yaping, who was sitting at the frontmost table, raised his glass and was about to say something. At this moment, many villagers suddenly rushed over. Wang Yaping saw this and could not help but smile. He thought to himself, "It seems that they've decided to attend my birthday banquet." Wang Yaping opened his mouth and was ready to ask the villagers to sit down. The next moment, Wang Yaping was stunned. "This table belongs to my family. These chairs are also." Then, the villagers actually put the food on the tables aside and ran out with the tables. Someone could not help but ask, "What are you doing? Old man Wang is still holding his birthday banquet." Only then did the villagers stop for a moment. They also felt that it was not good to move the tables and chairs away directly. The leaders of Qing City and Jiang Province have all gone to Old Lin's house. There aren't enough tables and chairs there. As soon as that person said that, the scene fell silent for a moment. Someone said, "You. Since when did you like to joke around? The big shots of Qing City and Jiang Province? What kind of status was that? They were definitely big shots? Would they come to celebrate Lin Liqiang's birthday?" This was simply impossible. Who's joking? Not only are the leaders of Qing City and Jiang Province here, but leader Qin Weiming is also here. Someone shouted while carrying a table. Then, he did not say anything more and quickly walked away. He had to hurry to Lin Liqiang's house. It was a rare opportunity to have a meal with so many important people. If he was a second late, it would be too late to regret it. The entire scene fell silent again. Qin Weiming. Elder Qin was here too? He was the famous general. Did he come over? Wan Yaping and everyone else present had disbelief and shock written all over their faces. At this moment, a loud ring jolted everyone awake. A middle-aged man who worked in the education field of Qing City looked at the caller ID. It was his cousin. He had told him in advance that he would be late today and there was no need to wait for him. Cousin, why are there so many Audi cars parked in front of old Lin's house? And the license plate numbers are as 00001, as 00002. The middle-aged man did not hear the last part of the sentence clearly. It was as if a cannonball had exploded beside his head, causing a buzzing sound. Wan Yaping, who was standing next to him, sat down on a chair. He was extremely dejected and panicked. Wan Yaping had already heard the voice on the phone clearly. He knew that what the villagers had said was true. The leaders of Qing City and Jiang Province, as well as Qin Weiming and the others were probably really here. He had actually fought with Lin Liqiang for so many years. This was really. He was really looking for death. At this moment, the front door of Lin Liqiang's house was filled with tables. Lin Liqiang sat in the main seat at the request of Qin Weiming, Zhou Guotao, and the others. Zheng Guidan, Qin Weiming, Zhou Guotao, Lin Tao, Dai Weishua, Lin Fan, Lin Xiaoyao, and the leaders of the Jiang province sat down. The villagers were at other tables, casually surrounding them. Soon, the fragrant dishes were slowly served after the three chefs were done cooking. Let us wish the birthday boy good health. Qin Weiming raised his glass. Immediately, everyone raised their glasses and shouted, "We wish the birthday boy good health." Lin Liqiang's entire mouth was already smiling from ear to ear as he happily said, thank you, everyone." Then, everyone drank the wine in their glasses. At this moment, a clear notification rang out in Lin Fan's mind. When Lin Fan heard the notification in his head, he was stunned for a moment. Then, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, revealing a faint smile. He had helped his grandfather with his birthday banquet and even completed a mission. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, not bad. After the villagers drank some wine, they could not help but start discussing in low voices. It's indeed Mao Tai. It tastes so good. Yup. My mouth is full of fragrance. Then, the villagers started to eat. The taste of this dish is too good. Especially this beef, it's so tender. I've never had such tender beef before. The drinks are also very good. As they ate, they were amazed. In fact, it was no wonder that they were reacting like this. That was because the beef cost thousands of yuan per caddy, and the beverage was MK drinks that cost hundreds of yuan per bottle. The banquet lasted for more than 2 hours before the crowd slowly dispersed. Qin Weiming, the leaders of Jiang province, Zhou Guotao, Song Jifeng, and the other CEOs did not stay for long. They drove away one after another. Generally speaking, after the guests left, the host had to clean up the dishes, wash the tables and chairs, and return them to the villagers. After all, this was the job of the host. However, today, it was completely different. Old brother Lin, don't tire yourself out. Hurry up and rest. I'll do it, I'll do it. Old Lin, you can just sit there and drink some tea. Lin Liqiang, Zhang Guidan, Lin Tao, Dai Weishue, and the others were forced to rest by the villagers. Meanwhile, the villagers were fighting to wash the dishes and wipe the tables and chairs. They were very busy. About an hour later, Lin Liqiang's house became neat and clean again. Except for the words birthday on the wall and the big red lanterns, there were no traces of there ever being a birthday banquet. Lin Liqiang sat in his chair and recalled the birthday wishes of more than a dozen CEOs, the leaders of Jiang province, and even Elder Qin. He could not hold back his smile. He understood that the reason for this was all because of Lin Fan. Lin Liqiang patted Lin Fan's shoulder and said, "Good job, Lil Fan." Then, the family chatted for a while, and the atmosphere was extremely relaxed and carefree. Lin Tao and Dai Weishue offered to bring Lin Liqiang and Zhang Guidan to 4th Street. Meanwhile, Lin Fan suggested buying a villa in the city so that the family could live together. However, they were all rejected by Lin Liqiang and Zhang Guidan. That was because they had already lived in Shanwu village for more than half of their lives. They really did not want to move. Seeing that the sky was slowly turning dark, Lin Fan drove Lin Tao, Dai Weishue, Lin Xiaoyao, and the truck into the distance. Lin Fan and the others had just left for a while when the sound of footsteps came from the corridor outside Lin Liqiang's house. Then, Wang Yaping slowly walked over with a yellow face. He bent over and said in a hoarse voice, "Brother Lin, I've let you down all these years." At that moment, Lin Fan had already sent his parents and sister back to 4th Street. Lin Xiaoyao seemed to have suddenly thought of something and asked, "Brother, you said last time that you solved Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture?" "Yup," Lin Fan replied casually. Lin Xiaoyao's mouth was wide open. "This is too awesome. What are you talking about? I'm your omnipotent brother." Lin Fan smiled as he pinched Lin Xiaoyao's face. After a pause, she said, "It's not nice to pinch. Remember to eat more." "Brother!" Lin Xiaoyao protested. "What conjecture?" asked Lin Tao. "Dad, it's Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture. They're some of the world's most difficult math problems." Lin Xiaoyao said excitedly. It was as if she was the one who had answered the two difficult questions. Lin Tao and Dai Weishue looked at each other and were also shocked. However, they quickly returned to normal. After all, Lin Fan had invited the leaders of Jiang province and Elder Qin. Now that he had solved two math problems, it seemed like it was not a big deal, right? Lin Fan looked at the time and said, "Dad, Mom, I'll go back to Jiangbei first." After all, he had promised Chu Yunhua that he would go and see the final product of Love Heart and its advertisement. Now that his grandfather's birthday banquet was over, Lin Fan could not go back on his words. "Alright, be careful on the road," Dai Weishue said. Lin Fan nodded and got into the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. He stepped on the accelerator and sped into the distance. Jiangbei Grand Hotel. As the three chefs did not go to Lin Fan's house in town, they arrived in Jiangbei earlier than Lin Fan. Just as they were about to enter the kitchen, the general manager, Zhang Shanfeng, happened to see the three of them. He asked, "You're back?" How was Mr. Lin's grandfather's birthday party? The three chefs were excited when this matter was mentioned. The leaders of Jiangbei City, Qing City, and Jiang Province all went to the birthday party. It's not just that. Elder Qin also went. I've really broadened my horizons today. As Zhang Shanfeng listened to their words, he could not help but swallow his saliva. His face was filled with horror. Although he had seen Lin Fan eating with these important people not long ago, he did not expect that these big shots would personally go to the birthday celebration. What was Lin Fan's identity? On the other hand, Lin Fan had finally arrived at Flower Stem's office in Jiangbei. Lin Fan had already been to Flower Stem a few times. Many employees knew that he had a good relationship with the president, Chu Yunyue. Therefore, when the employees saw Lin Fan, they all greeted him warmly. Lin Fan smiled in response. After a while, he arrived at the R&D center. Chu Yunyue was still mixing and testing the ingredients. She was very serious. When Chu Yunyue saw Lin Fan, her beautiful eyes immediately lit up as she said happily, "Lin Fan, you've come at the right time. Take a look at our Love Heart's finished product." As she spoke, she picked up a tray. On the tray, there were 7 different colored perfumes: yellow, red, green, blue, purple, white, and gray. Lin Fan opened the bottles one by one and sniffed. How's the smell? Chu Yunyue asked carefully. She was like a child waiting for her teacher to check her homework. She was both excited and nervous. Lin Fan did not reply immediately. He looked at the computer screen. In the image, a sweet girl was running around in a flower bush with colorful butterflies dancing behind her. When the girl stopped, the butterflies sprinkled pollen on her. Thus, it became the Love Heart series. "This is our Love Hearts promotional video," Chu Yunyue explained. Lin Fan nodded. "The perfumes are not bad. The promotional video is also pretty good. It can be compared to Guerlain and Burberry." "That's great," Chu Yunyue said excitedly. It was as though everything Lin Fan said was the truth of the world. As she was too happy, Chu Yunyue's pretty face started to glow. Then, Lin Fan and Chu Yunyue chatted for about half an hour. Chu Yunyue had been very worried and nervous these few days. This was because the Love Heart collection of perfumes would be launched in the next few days. Chu Yunyue had invested a lot of time and money into the collection. If the perfumes did not perform well, she would not know what to do. However, after chatting with Lin Fan for half an hour today, the worry in Chu Yunyue's heart instantly disappeared. Her entire person became extremely relaxed. Originally, Chu Yunyue wanted to treat Lin Fan to a meal. However, Lin Fan had already eaten. Therefore, he could only give up on it. The night was getting late. The entire Feiyang building gradually fell into darkness. A figure suddenly appeared in the tightly locked door of Flower Stem's office. It was the researcher, Zhao Zhixiong. "Chu Yunyue, the perfume that I've worked so hard to develop for you for so many years can't even compare to the sweet words of that pretty boy Lin Fan. You're the one who let me down first, so don't blame me." As Zhao Zhixiong spoke, he inserted the hard disk into the computer in the president's office. When the latest data was collected, Zhao Zhixiong took out a metal hammer and smashed it down. Sparks flew in all directions, illuminating his hideous and terrifying face. After Lin Fan came out of the Feiyang building, he immediately drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class and sped away. When he arrived at the traffic light not far away, a Mini Cooper car happened to stop at the side. Lin Fan took a casual look and realized that it was Hu Tian. "Teacher Tian." He called out. When Hu Tian heard the voice, she turned around slowly. When she saw Lin Fan, she said happily, "Lin Fan." Then, the two of them walked forward together. Not long after, Lin Fan arrived at Hu Tian's house. The two of them had not seen each other for a few days. Absence made the heart grow fonder. Once the door was closed, the air seemed to become unbearably hot. "I'll get you a glass of water first," Hu Tian said. However, Lin Fan just pulled her into his embrace. Oh, epsilon asterisk.
3 epsilon.
The two of them stayed up all night. The next day, when Lin Fan opened his eyes, there was no one beside him. However, there was a faint fragrance that drifted to his nose. Lin Fan stood up slowly and walked out. There was a bowl of noodles, a plate of fried dumplings, and a cup of hot milk on the table. Hu Tian smiled and said, "You must be hungry. Have some breakfast first." Lin Fan rubbed his nose and smiled. "I'm really hungry." After saying that, he did not stand on ceremony and picked up the noodles to eat. After a short while, the big bowl of noodles, the whole plate of fried dumplings, and the glass of milk were all eaten up. Lin Fan said, "Teacher Tian Tian, you're so good at teaching, and your cooking skills are also good. If I get used to your food, I'm afraid I won't be able to eat other people's food in the future." If anyone else had said this, Hu Tian would probably have thought that the other party was a glib-tongued person and would have felt disgusted. However, as it was Lin Fan, Hu Tian felt a sense of sweetness. As long as you like it, you can come and eat at any time, Hu Tian said with a smile. "Teacher Tian Tian, you said it yourself," Lin Fan said happily. The two of them chatted and laughed, and the atmosphere was very relaxed. Hu Tian was a little tired from last night, so she went back to her room to catch up on sleep after she cleaned up the dishes. Lin Fan drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class to Zhongbei University. When he passed by Zhongbei Street, a fragrance suddenly blew over. Lin Fan sniffed it gently, and his face was filled with surprise. That was because this fragrance was actually from the Love Heart collection that he had smelled yesterday. However, did Chu Yunyuan not say that the perfumes would only go on sale in a few days? Why did he smell it on the streets today? Lin Fan looked to the side with doubt in his heart. He saw. At the entrance of a perfume shop called Gentle Wind, there were many women standing in line. A few women were slowly walking out with newly bought perfumes. The perfume bottles looked similar to love hearts and were also divided into 7 colors: yellow, red, green, blue, purple, white, and gray. The fragrance was almost exactly the same as love hearts. Lin Fan looked through the crowd and into Gentle Wind's perfume shop. He could vaguely see the promotional video of Gentle Wind's perfume on the TV screen. The image in the video was almost exactly the same as the promotional video for Love Hearts collection that Lin Fan had seen yesterday. Lin Fan's brows furrowed as he came to a realization. Lin Fan did not go to Zhongbei University directly. Instead, he went to a nearby internet cafe. About 10 minutes later, he returned to the Mercedes-Benz G-Class and drove toward Feiyang Building. At the same time, on the 17th floor of Feiyang Building, at Flower Stem, a few investigators were holding pens and paper, asking questions while taking notes. "Who was the last one to leave the building yesterday?" a tall man asked. "It was me. I was the last one to leave," the beautiful receptionist said. "Was the main door locked?" the tall investigator asked. "It was locked," the beautiful receptionist said. "Every time I lock the door, I check it, so I'm very sure." "Other than the computer in the president's office, were there any other losses?" he asked. "No. I didn't lose anything." All the employees shook their heads. Miss Chu Yunhua, do you have any valuable information on this computer? The investigator asked. Chu Yunhua said anxiously, there's very important information stored inside. It contains all the detailed information of all the perfumes in Flower Stem. Can the computer data still be recovered? She asked. It could be said that this matter concerned the survival of the entire company. It was just information on ordinary perfumes. However, there was information on Love Heart that was about to be released on the market on the computer. One had to know. Chu Yunhua had already spent a large amount of money to sign off on production and publicity. There were also sales contracts with factories, internet platforms, television, physical stores, and other channels. Once the information in the computer was leaked, or if other perfume companies found out, then all the money Chu Yunhua had spent to sign these contracts would be gone. The entire Flower Stem would probably break because of this. The technician next to her shook his head and said, "We can't do it. The damage to the hard drive is too severe." At this moment, a researcher hurriedly walked in and said, "President, the 7 Mile fragrance collection released by Gentle Wind is almost exactly the same as our Love Heart series." As he spoke, he took out 7 bottles of perfume that were yellow, red, green, blue, purple, white, and gray in color. A familiar and pleasant scent wafted through the air. Whoosh! In an instant, it was as if the air around Chu Yunhua had been sucked dry, and her pretty face instantly turned white. The thing that she was most afraid of still happened. The information about the Love Heart collection was lost and stolen. Flower Stem was done for. The expressions of Flower Stem's employees also changed drastically. Clearly, they had also guessed some things. A corporate spy. A woman of medium build cried out. It must be a corporate spy who stole our information and destroyed the president's computer. That's right. It must be like this. Many of the employees agreed. Do you have any suspects in mind? The investigator asked. If it's really a spy as you say and they know the company very well, it might be an internal crime, he added after a pause. As he spoke, he could not help but glance at the employees as if trying to determine who the spy was. Even though it was just a simple glance, Zhao Zhixiong was so frightened that a thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. He had a strange feeling that if he did not do anything, he would soon be identified as a spy. Hence, Zhao Zhixiong took the initiative and said, "Recently, a person called Lin Fan has been coming to our company frequently." After he said that, all the employees started whispering to each other. They could not help but start to suspect Lin Fan. After all, they were familiar with most of the people in the company. It was only Lin Fan whom they were relatively unfamiliar with. Furthermore, the employees knew that Lin Fan was very close to the president, Chu Yunhua. He had the ability to steal information. Who is this Lin Fan? The investigator asked. Zhao Zhixiong spoke first. He's been appearing in our company for the past few days. He tries to get closer to our president every day. Now that I think about it, Lin Fan is really suspicious. When Chu Yunhua heard this, she immediately wanted to retort. Although they had not known each other for a long time, she still had great trust in Lin Fan's character. Also, Lin Fan did not need to do that. This was because a commercial spy would try to steal trade secrets in order to get paid. With Lin Fan's research on perfume, it was too easy for him to earn money. Furthermore, the reason why the Love Heart collection had come to what it was today was all thanks to Lin Fan. She had even given him 10% of the company's shares. From a certain perspective, Flower Stem belonged to Lin Fan as well. Stealing his own company's information and giving it to others? How was this possible? However, before Chu Yunhue could say anything, the clear sound of clapping came from outside the corridor. Then, a tall and handsome man slowly walked in. It was Lin Fan. Today, I've personally experienced what it means for a thief to accuse another of being the thief. Zhao Zhishong, am I right? Lin Fan smiled. As soon as he said that, Zhao Zhishong felt as if his tail had been stepped on. He shouted, Lin Fan, you still have the face to come and talk to me about this. For so many years, our flower stem has never had our information stolen. Why did such a thing happen just a few days after you started appearing? To think that our President Chu trusted you so much. Zhao Zhishong practically shouted out everything he wanted to say. This was the only way he could hide the fear in his heart. Lin Fan. How did he know? Zhao Zhishong tried hard to recall what had happened last night. He turned off the camera before making a move. He also wore gloves when he used the president's computer and destroyed it. After recollecting his memories, Zhao Zhishong was certain that he did not leave any evidence behind. Only then did he slowly regain his calm and composure. Lin Fan seemed to have seen through his change and smiled. Zhao Zhishong, do you think that you didn't leave any flaws behind when you were doing bad things? Lin Fan, if you say such things again, I'll sue you for slander. Zhao Zhishong shouted. Zhao Zhishong is an intermediate researcher at Flower Stem. His monthly salary is around 18,000, Lin Fan continued. From a week ago to last night, why did you receive 3 additional transfers of 300,000? Don't rush to deny it. If I'm not wrong, there should be notifications of the transfer on your phone. When Lin Fan found out that perfumes similar to the Love Heart collection had appeared in Gentle Wind, he knew that there was a spy in Flower Stem. Therefore, he went to the internet cafe and used his professional hacking skills to find the latest information on the employees of Flower Stem. Zhao Zhishong's expression changed as soon as he heard that, and beads of sweat began to form on his forehead. It was because Lin Fan was right. There was no mistake at all. He had indeed received 3 transfers of 300,000 yuan in the past few days, and he had received text messages notifying him of this on his mobile phone. However, how did Lin Fan know? Lin Fan continued, are you going to say that you received the money from a friend or relative? I have to say, Gentle Wind was very smart to choose to transfer the money from a company called Candy. However, if the police were to investigate, it would be easy to find out that Candy is a company fully owned by Gentle Wind. Lin Fan's words were calm. However, to Zhao Zhishong's ears, it was as if he had been struck by lightning, causing his ears to buzz. His face was pale, his body was trembling, and beads of sweat kept rolling down his body. The investigators were all good at catching criminals. By now, they could tell that there was something wrong with Zhao Zhishong. They immediately went forward and said, Zhao Zhishong, please come back with us. There are some things we'd like to ask you. This sentence was like the last straw that Zhao Zhishong was crushed by, causing him to collapse to the ground in fear. He knew, he was finished. After Zhao Zhishong was taken away, the atmosphere in Flower Stem was still a little depressing. Even though Zhao Zhishong had been caught, the information on the Love Heart collection had been destroyed. At the same time, the fact that Gentle Wind had released the 7 Mile Fragrance collection was also a fact. It would take a long time to solve it through legal means. In fact, they might not even be able to get a satisfactory result in the end. Flower Stem was on its final leg. The situation was very dangerous. Lin Fan was also very clear about this. He thought about it and said, Yunhue, let's go to the R&D center first. Alright, Chu Yunhue said in a tired tone. In the R&D center, Lin Fan quickly flipped through all the information and videos about Love Heart. Ding! Do you want to use the skill doubling card on Perfume Expert? Your skill will be doubled for 1 hour. Yes. Instantly, the process of making love heart flashed through Lin Fan's mind like a scene from a movie. Then, he quickly lit the alcohol lamp, placed the beaker on the spot, and connected the U-shaped tube, the separating funnel, the pump generator, the distillation bottle, and so on. Then, at the right time and according to the amount consumed, he poured in the rose liquid, chrysanthemum liquid, and osmanthus liquid. There were many kinds of flower liquids. Pre-processing, mixing, aging, freezing, filtering, and hardening. Chu Yunyue, who was standing at the side, saw everything. At first, she let out a look of suspicion, not knowing what Lin Fan was up to. However, as time passed, Chu Yunyue was stunned. Lin Fan's movements were smooth and fluid. Occasionally, there would be the sound of glassware clattering. In Chu Yunyue's eyes, it was as if he was not making perfume but standing on the world stage and performing a shocking concert. Skill, Perfume Expert, your charm is on full display. Swish. At this moment, Lin Fan finally stopped. At the same time, 7 perfumes, each with a different color, were presented. Lin Fan slowly opened the bottles. Whoosh! Immediately, refreshing, sweet, strong, fruity, mysterious, gentle, and elegant scents filled the entire R&D center. These bottles of perfume actually had the scent of the 7 perfumes from the Love Heart collection. Furthermore, the layers were distinct and not messy at all. If the Love Heart collection could be said to make a person feel as though they were in a flower field, then these ones would make one feel as if they were a flower fairy. One would feel as if one were at the top of the clouds, beautiful and magnificent. When Chu Yunyue smelled the fragrance, she was completely dazed. Lin Fan looked at the dazed Chu Yunyue and could not help but smile. What do you think about replacing the previous Love Heart collection with this new rainbow perfume collection? When Chu Yunyue heard this, she came back to her senses and said sincerely, thank you, Lin Fan. They're definitely the best perfumes I've ever smelled. Chu Yunyue's dream was to create an international first-class perfume that belonged to Hua Nation. Now, she saw hope. What are you thanking me for? Lin Fan laughed. Besides, aren't I a shareholder of Flower Stem? The 10% shares from last time are too little. I'll transfer you another 20%. Chu Yunyue said. Even though Flower Stem was founded by Chu Yunyue had given away a large number of shares through financing and employee stock ownership. She only owned 60% of the shares. Now, she would be transferring a total of 30% of her shares. This meant Lin Fan and she would have equal shares. From this, it could be seen how much importance Chu Yunyue placed on Lin Fan and the rainbow perfumes. As you wish, Lin Fan said indifferently. He really did not care much about the shares. The reason why he helped Chu Yunyue was that he felt that she was a good person. Then, under Lin Fan's guidance, Flowstem produced a new promotional video as well as a production and publicity plan. They distributed the plan to the factories, the internet, and television stations. By the time everything was done, the sky had already turned completely dark. Chu Yunyue had been busy the entire day. However, she felt extremely satisfied and carefree. She understood that there was hope for Flower Stem, and it would even get better and better. All of this was because of Lin Fan. Chu Yunyue smiled. It's getting late. Lin Fan, let's go eat. Lin Fan was also a little hungry. He nodded and said, all right. Today, they came to the same private kitchen as usual. This place. It had almost become their canteen. When the boss saw them from afar, he greeted them, I just received some air-flown live fish and premium beef today. They're very fresh and tender. Do you want to try them? Sorry to trouble you, boss, Chu Yunyue said. Just as the boss had said, the meat was really fresh and tender. Lin Fan and Chu Yunyue were very satisfied. As soon as they walked out of the private kitchen, they heard a melodious singing voice in the distance. Chu Yunue could not help but turn around and look at the street. A man of medium build was playing the guitar and singing a song. It was peaceful and free. Chu Yunue liked this kind of scene very much. Lin Fan also noticed the man who was playing the guitar and singing in the distance. His expression changed slightly. A long time ago, he had obtained heavenly voice and professional guitar playing experience, but he had never tried it before. At the thought of this, Lin Fan strode toward the man. Chu Yunue wanted to calm down and listen to the song, but she saw Lin Fan walk over. Hence, she followed closely behind. When they got closer, the man had just finished his song. The passers-by gave a round of sparse applause. When he was about to sing another song, Lin Fan said, "Can I try?" The man said without any hesitation, "Of course. It's no problem at all." Obviously, he was a person who was easy to get along with. After Lin Fan picked up the guitar, he first tried to feel the sound. Then, he slowly closed his eyes. The next moment, Lin Fan opened his eyes and started to play the guitar. At the same time, he opened his mouth and sang a deep, distant song. What made me cry wasn't just the wine last night. It's not just your gentleness that I'm reluctant to part with. How much longer do we have to walk? Hold my hand. As soon as he started performing, the pedestrians who were about to leave immediately stopped in their tracks. The passers-by on the streets seemed to be attracted by the scene and gathered together. The scene suddenly became quiet. Everyone was listening quietly. Chu Yunue was completely stunned. After the song started, Chu Yunue seemed to have arrived at an ancient street. Around her, people were playing mahjong, drinking tea, and chatting. Everyone was calm and unhurried. They were extremely relaxed. At this moment, a light and elegant fragrance of wine wafted out from the small shop next to them. The owner was carrying freshly cooked local snacks and chatting with the customers. Everything was so relaxed and beautiful. Walk with me on the streets of Chengdu, and don't stop until all the lights go out. Finally, Lin Fan sang the last line of the song. His fingers that were playing the guitar slowly stopped. For 10 seconds, the entire place was still very quiet. Everyone was immersed in the beautiful music, unable to extricate themselves. 10 seconds later, everyone applauded and cheered. It was really nice to listen to. He sang so well. Sing another song. Lin Fan was only here to experience it. Why would he sing another song? He directly passed the guitar to the man and then walked to Chu Yunue's side. "Let's go," he said. Chu Yunue did not reply. She just silently followed behind Lin Fan. In Chu Yunue's mind, she was recalling everything about Lin Fan. When they first met, Lin Fan easily solved the customers' complaints and suggested ways to improve the Love Heart collection. After that, Lin Fan personally improved the Love Heart collection step by step. Then, not only did Lin Fan find the company's spy, but he also created a super first-class perfume. Now, Lin Fan could even play the guitar and sing. These images continued to gather in Chu Yunue's mind, causing her impression of Lin Fan to grow stronger and stronger. In her eyes, Lin Fan started to emit extremely dazzling light. At this moment, a crisp notification sound rang out in Lin Fan's ears. Ding! Charming aura, triggered an unforgettable memory. Lin Fan's footsteps slowed down. He thought of a possibility and slowly turned around to look at Chu Yunue with the eyes of truth. Face value, 98. Favorability, 95. As expected, it was Chu Yunyue. At that moment, Chu Yunyue was still in a daze. She did not even notice that Lin Fan had stopped in his tracks and directly bumped into his arms. Their lips touched. At this moment, time seemed to stop for 10 minutes. Then, Lin Fan followed Chu Yunyue back to her house. Her house was near the Feiyang building. The house was decorated in a warm, simple, and comfortable style. The moment Lin Fan walked in, he felt a sense of familiarity in his heart. Teacher Tian Tian. Teacher Tian Tian's house also seemed to have this style. While Lin Fan was still looking around, Chu Yunyue had already jumped into his arms. That night, Chu Yunyue's house seemed to have experienced an earthquake. The table, bed, and cabinet all started to shake violently. The two of them did not sleep the entire night. The next day. Even though Chu Yunyue had not slept the entire night, she still went to Flower Stem early in the morning. After all, they had just distributed the information about rainbow perfumers to the factory, the internet, and TV platforms yesterday. There would definitely be many things to deal with today. Lin Fan went straight to Jiangbei University. When he arrived at the parking lot, Lin Fan did not come out immediately. Instead, he focused his attention on the system. Do you want to open the 5 silver packets? These 5 silver packets were for helping his grandfather celebrate his birthday. Yesterday, Lin Fan did not have the time to open them. He had the time now. Yes. Lin Fan said. Ding. Congratulations, you've received a 10x return card. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 200,000 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received a skill doubling card. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 500,000 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 300,000 yuan. Lin Fan nodded his head slightly in satisfaction. Lin Fan did not care too much about the money or the 10x interest return card. The skill doubling card, on the other hand, was extremely useful. That was because Lin Fan had already used it a few times before. Then, Lin Fan strolled into the classroom. This class was the old professor's class. Lin Fan did not listen for long before he fell asleep. Chu Yunyue spent a long time and finally finished the matters at hand. She poured a cup of coffee and took a light sip. The coffee's aroma lingered in her mouth as her beautiful eyes gazed at the distant scenery. After a long time, Chu Yunyue took out her phone and opened her contact list. Finally, her eyes fell on Sweet Baby. After a moment of hesitation, Chu Yunyue pressed the dial button. A moment later, the call was slowly connected. Tian Tian, Chu Yunyue said. Ever since you said that you have a man you like, I've put all my energy into Flower Stem. I wanted to keep myself busy so that I could realize my dream as soon as possible. But reality is cruel. Our Flower Stem's perfumes were questioned, and there was even a traitor in the company. A clear voice came from the phone. Yunyue, are you all right now? If Lin Fan had heard this voice, he would have exclaimed, Teacher Tian Tian. Chu Yunyue smiled and said, Don't worry, I'm fine. On the contrary, I'm doing surprisingly well now. Yunyue, where are you? I'll come over now, Hu Tian said. Hu Tian thought that Chu Yunyue had suffered a huge blow, which was why her words were so abnormal. No wonder she would think this way. After all, Hu Tian had made it clear that she had a man she liked, causing Chu Yunyue to lose her love. Now, Chu Yunyue's company had such a big change. This could be said to be a huge setback in both love and career. Chu Yunyue could also hear Hu Tian's worry. She smiled and said, Don't worry. I haven't finished speaking yet. Fortunately, a man appeared at this time. He helped to find the company's trader and even helped to create perfumes that far exceed international standards. Perhaps it won't be long before you'll see Flower Stem become the first international top Hua Nation perfume brand. When Xu Yunhua said this, her tone could not help but become a little higher. Obviously, she was really happy. After a pause, she continued, I was very surprised when you said you found a man you liked. It's because we've always hated men. But now, I truly understand how you feel. When Hu Tian heard this, she was sure that Xu Yunhua was not just shocked. She was really happy. Hu Tian could not help but feel happy for Xu Yunhua and said, It seems like you've fallen in love with the man who helped you find the trader in your company and created the perfume that's worthy of a top international brand. Yes, I have, Xu Yunhua said. Then I really have to congratulate you for finding your true love. By the way, have I seen him before? Hu Tian asked. I don't think so, Xu Yunhua said, but he's a student of Jiangbei University. Is that so? Hu Tian was a little surprised. According to what she knew about Xu Yunhua, this person must have a deep understanding of perfume. Otherwise, it would be impossible to create perfumes that surpass top international standards. By right, a perfume expert like this should be at least 30 years old. How old were the students of Jiangbei University? Yup. I was also surprised that he's still in school. Oh right, his name is Lin Fan, Xu Yunhua said. Lin Fan? Hu Tian shouted. There were no classes in the afternoon. Hence, after Lin Fan had his lunch at the canteen, he headed straight for Ika City. Creak. Creak. Lin Fan pushed open the door of 2501 and realized that the atmosphere inside was a little weird. He looked over. Huang Ling and Xiao Ziqian were sitting on the sofa in the living room with a middle-aged couple sitting next to them. Lin Fan could not help but ask, these two are? Huang Ling quickly stood up and prepared to say something. The middle-aged man named Huang Yipeng, who was wearing a plaid shirt and had slightly white hair, shouted before anyone could, were Huang Ling's parents. You must be Lin Fan, right? It's me. Hello, uncle and aunt, Lin Fan said. Huang Yipeng said, Huang Ling's already so old. We're not against her dating. But you guys shouldn't be sneaking around, right? Lin Fan blinked his eyes and turned around to look at Huang Ling, asking her with her gaze what was going on. The middle-aged woman named Li Min, who was dressed in purple, said, Yup. If we didn't see your photo in her moments, we would still be in the dark. As she spoke, Li Min took out her phone and opened a photo. It was a photo of Lin Fan, Huang Ling, and Xiao Ziqian eating at Star in order to complete the feasting mission. At that time, Huang Ling felt that Star's environment and food were very good, so she took a few photos and posted them on her WeChat moments. One of the photos was taken when she kissed Lin Fan. However, the spoon in the photo reflected the scene. Huang Ling looked at how her parents were questioning Lin Fan, and her entire face turned red like a ripe tomato. She wanted to find a hole and hide in it. If Lin Fan and she were really a couple, there would be no problem. However, the problem was that they were not a couple. After Lin Fan saw the photo, he immediately understood. Uncle, aunt, it's my fault, he said. I should have come home with Huang Ling earlier to visit you too. Hearing this, Huang Ling was moved to tears. When Huang Yipeng and Li Min heard this, their expressions relaxed a little. This is more like it. Lin Fan could understand why Huang Yipeng and Li Min were so excited. After all, children were the flesh and blood of their parents. Therefore, he was not unhappy at all. Lin Fan, what's your job now? Huang Yipeng asked. I'm studying at Jiangbei University, Lin Fan replied. Huang Yipeng and Li Min frowned when they heard this. Originally, they had wanted to ask Lin Fan if he bought a house and how much he earned. However, when they heard that Lin Fan was still studying, they could only suppress those words in their hearts. After all, how could a person who had not entered society talk about owning a house and having a salary? At this moment, Huang Ling finally seized the opportunity to speak. Mom, Dad, what brings you to Jiangbei this time? Huang Yiping glanced at Lin Fan indifferently. He seemed to be saying, "Let's see what kind of boyfriend you have." "The contract with our restaurant is about to expire," he said. "I've come to Jiangbei to sign it again." Then, Huang Yiping looked at his phone and said, "It's about time. Huang Ling, you and Lin Fan can come with us." "No problem," Lin Fan said with a smile. "Ziqian, do you want to go shopping with us?" "Us?" Li Min asked. "After that, we can all have dinner together." "Aunt, I'm sorry. I still have something to deal with later, so I can't go out with you," Xiao Ziqian said apologetically. "All right then." Li Min did not insist. Then, the group strolled outside. Huang Ling was the last to leave, and she could not help but glance at Xiao Ziqian. Xiao Ziqian, on the other hand, smiled faintly as if to say good luck. Soon, they arrived at the underground parking lot. Originally, Lin Fan was prepared to drive his Benz G-Class. However, Huang Yiping took out his car keys first and pressed them lightly. The Toyota Corolla not far away made a sound as the car's headlights lit up. "Let's go, my car's here." As he spoke, he strode forward. Lin Fan could only follow. Huang Yiping had been driving for years, and the journey was smooth. When they were waiting at the traffic light, Huang Yiping asked, "Lin Fan, what do your parents do?" Even Huang Ling's ears perked up. She was also curious about this matter. "They run a clothing store in Qing City," Lin Fan said honestly. "Your parents sell clothes?" Huang Yiping thought for a while and said, "I know some factories that sell wholesale clothing. We can give your parents some discounts in the future." Huang Ling, on the other hand, directly thought that a clothing store meant a clothing company. She thought to herself, "No wonder Lin Fan's clothes are so great." "Then I'll thank you on behalf of my parents," Lin Fan said. "Although you're still in school, you're already an adult. Have you considered your future development? Are you going to stay in Jiangbei?" Huang Yiping asked. "For the time being, I might stay in Jiangbei," Lin Fan said. He really did not think too far into the future. "Then you'll have to be prepared to buy a house in advance," said Li Min. "The price of houses has been increasing. I don't know how much money you'll be able to earn by the time you graduate." "I already have a house," Lin Fan said. "Oh? Is that so? Then you have to take us to see it later." Huang Yiping was a little surprised, but he did not seem to mind. That was because Lin Fan had just said that his parents had a clothing store in Qing City. Huang Yiping thought that Lin Fan's parents must have bought the house for him. Besides, how much money could a clothing store owner in Qing City have to buy a house? It must be a small house. They chatted in the car and soon arrived at a large, modern building. In front of the building, there were 5 big words, "Xiaowu Wholesale City." Seeing this, Lin Fan let out a weird expression. "Xiaowu Wholesale City? Huang Ling's parents were going to sign the contract here?" If he remembered correctly, a few days ago, when he opened the 1050 red packets, he seemed to have obtained 51% of the shares of Xiaowu Wholesale City. In other words, Huang Ling's parents were going to sign a contract with his company? Huang Yiping saw Lin Fan standing at the entrance in a daze and frowned. He thought to himself, "This boyfriend of my daughter is indeed from a small place like Qing City. He really has not seen much of the world." "My stomach hurts a little," Li Min said. "Ling, can you come with me to the bathroom?" "All right," Huang Ling responded. It had to be said that the flow of people in Xiaowu Wholesale City was indeed very large. Even if they wanted to go to the washroom, they had to queue up. About 10 minutes later, Li Min came out of the bathroom and said, "Ling, why did you ask Lin Fan to be your boyfriend?" Huang Ling opened her mouth, not knowing how to answer. She could not possibly say that Lin Fan was not her boyfriend at all and they had a special relationship. If she said that, she would probably be beaten to death, right? Li Min continued, "Lin Fan is indeed very young and handsome. But can he be young and handsome forever? You should think more about your future life." Huan Ling opened her mouth again. She really wanted to say, "Mom, Lin Fan can definitely give me the life I want the most." At this moment, Huang Yiping walked over and asked, "Why are you so slow?" "There were too many people," Li Min said. Then, the four of them headed to the office area on the third floor. There were only 2 tables, a sofa, and a coffee table in room 307. The layout was very simple. A round-faced man was working seriously on his computer. Huang Yiping knocked on the door and said, "Is Manager Xiong here?" "That's me." "Come in," the round-faced man said. Thus, Huang Yiping and the others slowly walked in. When Huang Yiping and Li Min saw Manager Xiong's face, they were both stunned. How could it be him? Huang Yiping lived in room 305 in Xinhua District, the city. Manager Xiong used to live in room 304 in Xinhua District, and the two were neighbors who saw each other often. Manager Xiong liked to keep dogs, big dogs. In addition, he would take the big dogs out for a walk every day. However, Manager Xiong never leashed the dogs. Whenever Huang Yiping's family went out, they would often be frightened by his big dogs. Therefore, he had asked Manager Xiong to put the dogs on leashes. However, Manager Xiong did not listen at all. Huang Yiping had to ask the security guards to help mediate, but Manager Xiong still did not listen. In the end, Huang Yiping called the police. It could be said that Manager Xiong hated Huang Yiping's family for this incident. Later, Manager Xiong moved, and Huang Yiping's family never saw him again. "I didn't expect to meet you here today. You're Mr. Huang, right?" Manager Xiong sneered. Huang Yiping finally reacted. Yes, I'm here today to sign the distribution contract for next year, as I told you yesterday." Even though the two of them had enmity, in order to survive, Huang Yiping had to put it aside for the time being. "Oh, I've already prepared the new contract. Take a look first." As Manager Xiong spoke, he casually threw the contract on the table. Although Manager Xiong's attitude was not very good, in order to survive, Huang Yiping did not dare to show any anger. He picked up the contract and read it carefully. However, Huang Yiping asked after a while, "Manager Xiong, weren't we at level 2 last year? Why is this contract for a level 3 retail store? Did you take the wrong contract out?" Manager Xiong took a sip of tea and then cleared his throat. "I didn't take the wrong one out. Mr. Huang, you've been running the shop for a few years. Why don't you understand the rules? The level of the retail store is based on the sales volume. Your sales volume last year was too low, so you can only get the contract for a level 3 retail store this year." His tone was relaxed, but Huang Yiping was anxious. "Manager Xiong, the prices of many items for level 3 distributors are 5% higher than those on level 2. We can't afford them at all. It might seem like a mere 5%, but how much is the total profit of one product?" As Huang Yiping had said, they could not afford it. Li Min could not help but shout, "Manager Xiong, you can't deliberately make things difficult for us just because we had a conflict in the past. You can't say that." Manager Xiong's face sank as he shouted. "You should know the sales figures of your store. Take a look at the rules of the distributors in Shaowu Wholesale City. I'm doing everything according to the rules." As he spoke, he threw a stack of documents on the table. Huang Yiping understood that the situation was more important than the person. "Manager Xiong, I'm sorry. My wife didn't mean it that way," he quickly apologized. "However, with this 5% increase in price, our shop won't be able to make any profit at all. Moreover, our store's sales volume is only a little bit away from the sales volume of a level 2 sales store. Can you please be more tolerant?" Manager Xiong did not change his mind even after Huang Yiping's apology. "I've already said that this is the rule of Shaowu Wholesale City. You were a little bit away from the sales volume, which means you didn't reach it. Therefore, we can only sign a level 3 dealer contract this year. If you want to improve your level, it's very simple. If you can increase your sales this year, you'll naturally be able to sign a higher grade contract next year. That was what he said, but in reality? The prices were low last year, but that did not help to increase sales. If the prices were high this year, how could their sales increase? Huang Yipeng understood this very well. His face was full of bitterness as he said, Manager Xiong, can you think of another way? What I just said is the only way. Manager Xiong said. If you don't believe me, you can go to the other business managers in our Shaowu wholesale city. After that, Manager Xiong ignored Huang Yipeng and the others. He focused on the computer screen, looking very busy. Seeing this, Huang Yipeng was filled with helplessness. He could only continue to look through the contract. Should he go to the other managers of Shaowu Wholesale City? Would it really work? As Manager Xiong said, this was the rule of Shaowu Wholesale City. As a member of Shaowu Wholesale City, Manager Xiong definitely had his own network. Perhaps with just one word, he could make all the other managers follow the rules. Lin Fan frowned and was about to say something. Ring, ring. At this moment, his phone rang. Lin Fan looked at the caller ID and saw that it was an unknown number. Hello, are you Mr. Lin? Just as Lin Fan pressed the answer button, a voice filled with a fawning tone rang out. Lin Fan said, It's me. Who are you? Hello, Mr. Lin. I'm Zhang Zhou, the chairman of Shaowu Wholesale City. The voice on the other end of the phone became more respectful. When Lin Fan heard this, his brows furrowed slightly as he gave a strange look. He had just arrived at Shaowu Wholesale City, and their chairman had already called? In fact, Zhang Zhou had long wanted to make this call. After all, Lin Fan was the biggest shareholder in his company. In fact, if Lin Fan was willing, he could even easily remove him from his position as the chairman. Therefore, Zhang Zhou wanted to wait for good news from the company before calling Lin Fan. He wanted to leave a good impression on Lin Fan. After a while, Lin Fan said, Oh, it's you. What's the matter? Mr. Lin, here's the thing. We've calculated the financial statement for the second quarter of Shaowu Wholesale City. The net profit in the second quarter increased by 120%. A total of 120 million in dividends was generated, and your 51% of the shares is 61 million. May I know which account it'll be transferred to? Zhang Zhou said. Lin Fan's lips curled up. Although he did not care much about money now, he was still a little happy to be able to earn an additional 61 million. Lin Fan said, I'm at Shaowu Wholesale City, room 307. Come over first. Zhang Zhou was stunned for a moment, then he quickly said, Yes, I'll come over now. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Zhou became busy and anxious. Secretary, quickly inform all the executives to gather. At this moment, in room 307. Huang Yipeng finally finished reading the contract, and his frown deepened. Manager Xiong, if we follow the price on the contract, I'm afraid our shop won't be able to continue. What do you mean by that, Mr. Huang? Asked Manager Xiong. Our Shaowu wholesale market has signed a lot of level 3 sales contracts. If you say that, how are the others continuing to run their stores? In fact, we're already offering the cost price to the level 3 distributors, and we're offering subsidies to the level 2 distributors. If you want to get the subsidies, of course, you have to have a good performance. After a pause, Manager Xiong continued, If you really think the price is too high and you can't continue to run the store, we won't force you. After all, Shaowu Wholesale City has always allowed tenants to freely come and go. After that, Manager Xiong picked up the cup again and drank the tea leisurely. Freely come and go? This sentence was simple, but was it really so? When Huang Yipeng first opened this shop, he spent a total of 200,000 to 300,000 yuan on the renovation, security deposit, stock, and so on. If he really gave up now, all the previous investments would be for naught. Huang Yipeng's expression was extremely ugly. He opened his mouth, trying to say something. At this moment, a series of hurried footsteps suddenly came from the corridor. Then, a large group of men and women in formal suits walked in quickly. When Manager Xiong, who was drinking tea, saw them, he almost got scalded. He quickly stood up and said, Chairman Zhang, General Manager Chen, Director Wang, Director Li, Director Hu. Why are you guys here? However, it was as if these people did not hear Manager Xiong's words. The chairman, Zhang Zhou, went straight to Lin Fan and said respectfully, Hello, Mr. Lin. Following that, the large group of people behind him also followed suit and said respectfully, Hello, Mr. Lin. Silence. Then, the entire room 307 fell into a brief silence. Huang Yipeng and Li Min's mouths were half open, and their faces were full of shock. They had clearly heard Manager Xiong address the group of people in front of him as chairman, general manager, and directors. It could be said that this group of people was definitely the higher-ups of Xiaowu Wholesale City. They were big shots. However, this group of people actually all knew Lin Fan. Furthermore, they even used an extremely fawning tone to address Lin Fan as Mr. Lin. The sudden change stunned Huang Ling. However, her ability to accept things was clearly much better than her parents'. After all, Huang Ling had long known that Lin Fan was no ordinary student. In the face of Zhang Zhou and the others' warm greetings, Lin Fan only casually replied, Hello. You're Chairman Zhang, right? Lin Fan said to the middle-aged man in gold-rimmed glasses who was standing in front. Mr. Lin, you can just call me Lil Zhang, Zhang Zhou said in a flattering tone. Lil Zhang? Xiaowu Wholesale City was a big enterprise with a market value of tens of billions. As the chairman of Xiaowu Wholesale City, Zhang Zhou could definitely be called a local tyrant here. At this moment, he was actually calling himself Lil Zhang? Who was Mr. Lin? Manager Xiong could not help but shiver. Huang Yipeng and Li Min's mouths were wide open. Lin Fan said, Lil Zhang? I'll just call you Zhang Zhou. Okay. Mr. Lin, you can call me anything you want, Zhang Zhou said. Mr. Lin, what brings you to Xiaowu Wholesale City this time? He asked, nervously. After all, Lin Fan was the biggest shareholder in Xiaowu Wholesale City. Now, he had suddenly come over quietly. If he was dissatisfied with anything, it would definitely be a disaster. Lin Fan said, It's not a big deal. My future in-laws are distributors in Xiaowu Wholesale City. I'm here to accompany them. My future in-laws have always signed a level 2 sales contract. However, I don't know if it's because Manager Xiong had a conflict with them in the past, but he's insisting on signing a level 3 sales contract with them today. As soon as he said that, Zhang Zhou's face darkened. Although Xiaowu Wholesale City did determine the level of the distribution store for the next year based on the sales of the previous year, as long as the previous year's sales were not too bad, the level of the distribution store would rarely be lowered. After all, no one would be willing to suddenly raise the price. Once it reached the point of lowering the level of the shop, it meant that the business of the shop was extremely poor and was close to closing down. Since Lin Fan's future in-laws had come to sign the new contract, it was obvious that the business was not that bad. In other words, Manager Xiong was deliberately making things difficult for them. Making things difficult for Mr. Lin's future in-laws? How dare he? I've been busy with the company's structure recently, Zhang Zhou said solemnly. I've neglected my employees' performance. Mr. Lin, I'll definitely deal with this matter seriously. Manager Xiong, who was standing not far away, felt as if he had been thrown into an ice cellar. His whole body was cold. Manager Xiong had moved from this city because he had a relative who was a higher-up in Shaowu Wholesale City and who could give him a bright future. However, it all ended here. Zhang Zhou said to Huang Yipeng and Li Min in a flattering tone, "You must be Mr. Lin's future in-laws?" "Hello, hello." Huang Yipeng and Li Min shook hands, stunned. Zhang Zhou continued, "You're willing to cooperate with Shaowu Wholesale City, which shows your trust in us. Later, I'll have someone sign a strategic cooperation agreement with you." A strategic cooperation agreement? That meant they would become regional agents. Please visit. This meant that Huang Yipeng and Li Min could get the cheapest price. They could even buy from all the shops in this city. They could earn money just by sitting down. This sentence was like a bomb, directly blowing up Huang Yipeng and Li Min. Then, under the invitation of Zhang Zhou and the other higher-ups, Lin Fan, Huang Yipeng, Li Min, and Huang Ling went for a luxurious dinner. Seeing that the sky was gradually turning dark, Lin Fan and the rest were sent off respectfully by Zhang Zhou and the other higher-ups. They got into the Corolla and gradually left. Different from when they first arrived, the atmosphere in Corolla was a little dull. Lin Fan said, "Uncle, turn left in front. Let's go take a look at my house first. We can also stay there for the night." Not long after, the group of people arrived at the Coiling Dragon Villa complex. When the security guards at the entrance saw that it was a Corolla, they initially did not intend to respond. However, when they saw Lin Fan's face, their faces bloomed like a flower. They smiled respectfully. "Welcome home, Mr. Lin." The security guards respected him from the bottom of their hearts. After all, he was the only owner of the Coiling Dragon Villa complex. Lin Fan nodded his head as a form of greeting. When they walked in, they were greeted by a field of green trees and the fragrance of flowers. In the distance, there were many villas that looked like castles. The sight was beautiful and mesmerizing. Seeing this, Huang Yipeng and Li Min both swallowed their saliva. Li Min could not help but ask, Lin Fan, where's your house?" "Everyone here," Lin Fan said. Li Min was stunned for a moment. She obviously did not understand. What did that mean? Hence, Lin Fan explained, there are a total of 10 villas in the Coiling Dragon Villa complex. And these 10 villas are all mine. "Uncle, Aunt, which one do you want to stay in today?" "Pick whichever you want." Silence. The entire venue suddenly fell silent. All of them. All the villas here belong to Lin Fan alone. When the chairman of Shaowu Wholesale City and the others tried to please Lin Fan, Huang Yipeng and Li Min knew that Lin Fan was definitely very rich. Even if he had a villa here, it was considered normal. However, they did not expect that this place. A total of 10 villas, all of which belonged to Lin Fan alone. This was completely beyond their imagination. In fact, Huang Yipeng and Li Min were not the only ones who were shocked. Huang Ling was also shocked. In the past, Lin Fan had told Huang Ling and Qiu Ziqian that he had an extra villa and that they could stay there. However, Huang Ling and Qiu Ziqian felt that a villa was too big and empty. Therefore, they still chose to live in Ika City. However, Lin Fan did not say that he had 10 villas. Huang Ling thought it was an apartment building. Lin Fan saw that the three of them were stunned and did not speak for a long time. He could not help but cough lightly and ask, "Uncle, Aunt, which villa do you want to live in?" Huang Yipeng was still in a daze. He pointed at a villa near the lake. "Alright, we'll stay in that one." Lin Fan nodded. As he spoke, he strode forward and entered the password. Creak. Creak. With a soft sound, the door slowly opened. Suddenly, the luxurious decorations in the villa appeared in front of Huang Yipeng, Li Min, and Huang Ling. The next day, a few birds were chirping outside the window, and a ray of warm sunlight gently shone on the windowsill. Everything was so quiet and peaceful. Lin Fan, who was lying on the big bed, slowly opened his eyes. He looked at his phone out of habit. A text message was already on the screen. Notice from Merchant Bank, 1,430,000 yuan was deposited into your account at 12 a.m. Lin Fan washed up and walked out of his room. At that moment, Huang Ling, Huang Yipeng, and Li Min were sitting in the living room and chatting in low voices. When Lin Fan appeared, the three of them stopped chatting and turned their gazes to him. Being stared at by the three of them, Lin Fan could not help but feel a little awkward. He coughed lightly and said, "You guys must be hungry. Let's go have breakfast first." Then, they left the Coiling Dragon Villa complex and went to a nearby restaurant. The restaurant was elegantly decorated, and the breakfast was delicious with a wide variety. Of course, the price was a little more expensive. The breakfast for 4 people cost about 800 yuan in total. "Uncle, aunt, why don't you stay in Jiangbei for a few more days?" Lin Fan said as he wiped his mouth. Huang Yipeng waved his hand and said, "Our shop hasn't been open for 2 days. We can't keep it closed anymore. Moreover, we just signed a strategic agreement with Shaowu Wholesale City, so we need to go back early to prepare." Huang Yipeng could not hide the smile on his face. At the same time, the way he looked at Lin Fan became even fierier. Li Min, who was sitting next to him, could not help but ask, "Lin Fan, how do you know the chairman and the general manager at Shaowu Wholesale City?" Huang Yipeng and Huang Ling both perked up their ears. Clearly, they were also very concerned about this issue. "Oh, because I have 51% of the shares of Shaowu Wholesale City," Lin Fan said casually. Huang Yipeng's spoon fell to the ground, and he was completely stunned. As the manager of the retail store, he knew very well how huge the financial resources of Shaowu Wholesale City were. Lin Fan. He actually owned 51% of Shaowu Wholesale City's shares? If he had said that the first time he met Lin Fan, Huang Yipeng would have spat on his face. At this moment, he completely believed it. This was the only reason why the chairman and the general manager at Shaowu Wholesale City were so polite to him and even tried to please him. On the highway, nostalgic music was playing in the Toyota Corolla. Li Min's slightly aged face was blushing due to the direct sunlight. She seemed to have thought of some beautiful images, and a smile appeared on her face. "My Lil Ling has good eyes. If only she could get pregnant earlier. I have to let my daughter nourish her body." As Li Min spoke, she took out her phone and quickly typed a message. Suddenly, Huang Yipeng's phone rang. He pressed the answer button in the car. Is this Brother Huang?" A hoarse voice came from the car's stereo. "It's me, and you are?" Huang Yipeng said. "I'm Xiong Jian Pain. Brother Huang, I was wrong in the past. Please don't hold it against me," Manager Xiong said in a sobbing voice. At that moment, Lin Fan arrived at Jiangbei University. Lin Fan had just sat down in his classroom when Song Jiasen walked over. "How did you calculate this?" she asked as she took out her notebook. Lin Fan looked at the densely packed formulas in the notebook. It was Zhou's conjecture. With Song Jiasen's family background, she did not need to study mathematics. Obviously, as she had said before, she was really interested in mathematics. Unfortunately, Song Jiasen's interest did not make her the best in mathematics. This was because the equation in front of Lin Fan was only the most basic calculation of Zhou's conjecture. However, she could not understand it at all. Please visit. Lin Fan picked up his pen and wrote down the most detailed steps in his blank notebook. Song Jason looked at the floating calculations in the notebook and fell into a daze. No one knew what she was thinking. At this moment, the bell rang from outside. The old professor walked in slowly with a textbook in his hand. It had to be said that the old professor's teaching method was really hypnotizing. Even though Lin Fan had already slept through the night, Lin Fan's eyelids felt heavy and he fell asleep not long after the lesson started. In the afternoon, when he was eating in the canteen, Lin Fan's phone vibrated. 12 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 3 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 19,999 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received skillful scanning. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 5 yuan. Today, Lin Fan earned a total of 42,189 yuan. He naturally did not care about this little bit of money. Lin Fan immediately focused his attention on skillful scanning. Skillful scanning, photographic memory and a skill that can quickly absorb knowledge. Superb memory and reading ability. Not only can you quickly grasp knowledge, but you can also display a special charm. When Lin Fan saw this, his eyes lit up immediately. In the past, he often fantasized about having a photographic memory. He did not expect that it would become a reality today. This was definitely a very good skill. After Lin Fan finished his lunch, he went back to his dormitory and impatiently picked up a textbook. He quickly flipped through it. With just a glance, the first page's dense content seemed to be engraved into his mind. It was extremely magical. Lin Fan could not help but be excited as he flipped to the second page, third page, fourth page. In just 2 minutes, Lin Fan could actually recite the entire book backward. Lin Fan read 3 books in a row before his interest slowly faded. At this moment, the phone in his pocket vibrated slightly. It was a message from teacher Tian Tian. Hu Tian, if you're free tonight, come over to my house. Yesterday, Huan Ling's parents had come and Lin Fan had been holding it in for the entire night. At that moment, when he saw the message, Lin Fan's heart could not help but beat faster. He quickly replied to the message. Lin Fan replied, since you invited me, I'll definitely make time. When the school bell rang in the afternoon, Lin Fan drove the Pagani Huayra toward Hu Tian's house. At this time, it was time to get off work, and the road was very congested. Even though Hu Tian's home was not far from Jiangbei, Lin Fan still spent close to an hour. Lin Fan knocked on the door slowly. Very quickly, the door opened with a creak. At the next moment, Lin Fan was a little stunned. That was because the person who opened the door was not Hu Tian but Chu Yunhua. Just when Lin Fan thought that he had come to the wrong place, Hu Tian appeared in front of him. At that moment, the two women's scent, their similar house decorations, and other things all came together in Lin Fan's mind. Chu Yunhua was actually the one Hu Tian was talking about. Her girlfriend? Tonight would be another sleepless night. When Lin Fan opened his eyes, the sky was already bright. Chu Yunhua and Hu Tian had long prepared noodles, fried dumplings, and other delicacies. After a tiring night, the three of them were a little hungry. Not long after, all the food was finished. Chu Yunhua wiped the oil from the corner of her mouth. Her pretty face was full of satisfaction. Then, she looked at the time and said, I'll take my leave first. The demand for flower stems rainbow is relatively large. I need to supervise and coordinate with them. As she said this, Chu Yunhua's pretty face revealed a smile that was difficult to hide. After Rainbow was officially launched, the perfumes immediately received a lot of good reviews. In just one day, they were sold out. This made Chu Yunhua feel that she was getting closer and closer to creating Hua Nation's first international top perfume brand. Then, Chu Yunhua's sparkling eyes fell on Lin Fan. All of this was Lin Fan's credit. After Chu Yunhua left, Hu Tian muttered to herself, "A year ago, Chu Yunhua and I decided to spend the rest of our lives together. A week ago, we decided to split up and live our own lives. I can't believe that we're going to spend the rest of our lives together again after just a week." After Hu Tian finished speaking, she looked at Lin Fan with a smile. She had never thought that such a young man would have such a huge impact on her life. Being stared at like that, Lin Fan felt a little embarrassed. He picked up the teacup and continuously moistened his throat. Hu Tian looked at Lin Fan's embarrassed expression and could not help but smile. The two chatted for a while more before they headed to Zhongbei University. As Hu Tian walked along the wide campus road, almost all the students who passed by greeted her. It could be seen just how popular Hu Tian was at Zhongbei University. At this time, a clear voice came from not far away. "Tian, so you're here. I was just about to go look for you." A short-haired woman of average build, about 30 years old, quickly walked over. "Wenting, is there something you need from me?" Hu Tian asked. Wenting, whose full name was Zhong Wenting, was an associate professor in the physics department of Zhongbei University. Female professors were rare in fields such as mathematics, physics, and chemistry. Therefore, Hu Tian and Zhong Wenting's relationship had always been good. "It's about the earthquake project in our laboratory. The calculations are too complicated. We can't do it at all. That's why we'd like to ask a great mathematician like you to help us out," Zhong Wenting said. Even though physics and mathematics were two different subjects, if it was just calculation, it would still lead to the same result. "Calculations?" Hu Tian laughed. "You've got the wrong person." "Huh?" Zhong Wenting was a little puzzled. In the past, when she asked Hu Tian for help, she would always agree immediately. Why did she reject her today? Hu Tian continued, "Because the person next to me is a true great mathematician. He's more suitable for you." Then, she pointed at Lin Fan and introduced him. "He's Lin Fan." Lin Fan? Zhong Wenting was stunned for a moment. Then, she cried out in surprise, "Lin Fan? The genius who solved Zhou's conjecture and twin prime number conjecture?" Lin Fan did not accept the interviews despite the request of the leaders of Zhongbei University and Zhongbei City. However, his name had already spread throughout the entire Zhongbei University. Zhong Wenting said excitedly, "Mr. Lin, can you help us solve the calculation problem?" Lin Fan could tell that Zhong Wenting and Hu Tian had a good relationship. He would only be helping out with some calculations, so there was naturally no problem. "All right," he replied. When Zhong Wenting heard this, the smile on her face widened. Then, the three of them arrived at the building behind the basketball court of Zhongbei University. The school building looked a little old from the outside. Most people would not pay attention to it even if they passed by. However, for those who were familiar with Zhongbei University, they knew the truth. This was because this building contained a lot of expensive equipment, experimental materials, and data. It was definitely one of the most valuable and important places at Zhongbei University. In Physics Laboratory 104, there were complicated instruments and LED lights of various sizes. They were flashing with different lights. Wang Guohai, a professor from the physics department, would occasionally instruct two PhD students to adjust the experimental steps and methods. Wang Guohai stared at the screen and mumbled, "I have to think of a way to quickly solve these difficult problems." At this moment, a series of light footsteps came from the corridor. Professor Wang, look who I've brought with me, said Zhong Wenting happily. When Wang Guohai heard this, he slowly raised his head and said, so, it's Professor Hu. Welcome, welcome. I was just worried about the calculations. Now that you're here, I don't have to worry anymore. Obviously, Zhong Wenting had already said that she would invite Hu Tian over. Therefore, Wang Guohai was not too surprised. Hu Tian smiled. Professor Wang, you might have misunderstood. I'm not here to help with the calculations. It's Lin Fan. Lin Fan? Wang Guohai's face was filled with surprise. He then looked to the side and said solemnly, Student Lin, the process of solving Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture was very exciting. Wang Guohai had been to the report that day. This was why he knew Lin Fan. It was just that he did not notice him just now. Thank you for your praise, Professor Wang, Lin Fan said. The two PhD students who were doing experiments heard the conversation and looked over. They were also really curious about Lin Fan. Zhong Wenting said, that's enough. Stop chatting. Student Lin, you'd better come and help us with these difficult problems. As she spoke, she handed over a stack of documents. There were many equations written on it. 2, 1 slash, 5 pi, plus 1, 4 slash 5 pi b plus 7 1, caret 3. Hu Tian was about to say something. However, Lin Fan had already picked up his ballpoint pen and started writing. The entire laboratory was filled with a crisp knocking sound. Ding! Absolute focus triggered a flash of inspiration. 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages. Soon, the blank draft book was filled with floating figures. After that, he finished answering 1 question, 2 questions. In about 50 minutes, all the questions had been answered. Silence. The entire laboratory was silent. Wang Guohai, Zhong Wenting, and the 2 PhD students were all around him. Their mouths were half open, and their faces were full of shock. These problems were accumulated in the last half a year. They spent a long time and racked their brains but still could not solve them. In the end, in less than an hour. The young man in front of them, Lin Fan. He answered all of them without thinking? It was like eating and drinking to him. Was this the genius who solved 2 world-class math problems? This was too amazing. Hu Tian's eyes were filled with a strange light as she looked at Lin Fan's answers. She had seen Lin Fan answer many difficult questions. However, she was fascinated every time. She would not get tired of it. The elegant handwriting, the focused expression, and the determined face. In Hu Tian's eyes, it was as if Lin Fan was the only person left in the entire world. He was so dazzling and captivating. Cough, cough. Lin Fan was being stared at by everyone and felt a little awkward. He cleared his throat and said, Are there any other questions? After he finished answering all the questions, Lin Fan came out of his state of absolute focus. In fact, if he had not triggered the flash of inspiration, Lin Fan would not have been able to solve so many physics questions in such a short time. After all, he only had professor-level physics experience and professor-level mathematics experience. Wang Guohai finally reacted and said, according to the data on this, do another earthquake simulation experiment and our particle movement experiment. The 2 PhD students quickly took the draft paper. According to the experimental requirements and steps, they carefully fiddled with the experimental equipment and pressed the buttons. Swish! After a short while, the large experimental instrument in front began to shake violently. Then, rows of LED lights flashed in different colors in a certain pattern. A moment later, the computer screen connected to the instrument showed dense black dots. Wang Guotao typed quickly on the keyboard and entered a series of equations. Suddenly, the black dots seemed to be attracted to the screen and formed a beautiful parabola. Seeing this, Zhong Wenting shouted excitedly, "This is great! We've found the trajectory of the R particle." Wang Guotao was also full of smiles. At the same time, he looked at Lin Fan and sighed. While they were happy, Lin Fan's lips curled up as well. In his mind, a clear and crisp prompt sounded. Ding! You've triggered a hidden mission. Read Geographical Science, Basics of Geology, Geology and Structure, Mechanics, Basic Research of the Earth's Crust, Wave Theory, Advanced Particle Research, Research and Analysis of Quantum Mechanics, and Law of Earth's Crust Movement. Reward, Earthquake Prediction Device and its Manufacturing Principle. Earthquake Prediction Device? Predicting earthquakes in advance? This was obviously a good thing. Lin Fan did not expect to trigger a mission when he came to the physics laboratory. "Lin Fan, thank you," Wang Guohai said solemnly. "It's just a small matter. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave," Lin Fan said. He just wanted to finish this mission as soon as possible. Wang Guohai looked at Lin Fan and Hu Tian's back view as they left. He was in a daze and sighed. "Lin Fan, what an amazing genius." In fact, when Wang Guohai found out that Lin Fan was the one who came to help him solve the problems, he did not have much hope. Even though Lin Fan had solved Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture, it only meant that he was a mathematical genius. The calculations from before involved a lot of advanced physics knowledge. He was a college student, so he might not even be able to recognize all the symbols. Even if it was Hu Tian, she would still need to read through a lot of information before she could have an answer. However, Lin Fan easily solved all of them in less than an hour. This was not something that could be simply described as a mathematical genius. "Lin Fan is a genius," Zhong Wenting said. Obviously, he did not think that much about it. As they walked along the winding path, the chirping of birds could be heard from the treetops. "I didn't expect you to have such a deep understanding of physics," Hu Tian said. Right when Lin Fan received the questions, Hu Tian wanted to explain the meaning of the special symbols. However, before Hu Tian could even open her mouth, Lin Fan had already answered the questions. It was obvious that this surprised Hu Tian. "Physics?" Lin Fan asked. "In the future, you'll realize that there's nothing I don't understand." "Is that so?" Hu Tian said with a smile. At this moment, Hu Tian's phone vibrated. She looked at her phone and said, "I have something to do. I need to go to the office first." "All right, you should go," Lin Fan replied. Then, he walked straight to the library. Jiangbei University was indeed one of the top universities in the country. In the tall library, people were moving about. On the rows of tables, many people were reading seriously and doing questions at their desks. It was a very studious atmosphere. He looked into the distance and saw a dense number of bookshelves. Each bookshelf was divided into different categories and filled with a large number of books. Lin Fan quickly walked through the bookshelves of humanities, history, chemistry, and novels. Finally, he came to the physics bookshelf. Wave Theory, Advanced Particle Research, Quantum Mechanics Research and Analysis, Wavelength Theory. Then, Lin Fan came to the Geography bookshelf. Geographical Science, Basics of Geology. After nearly 20 minutes, Lin Fan finally found a place to sit down with a pile of books in his arms. If an ordinary person wanted to finish reading all 10 books, it would take at least 1 or 2 months. One had to know that these were all heavyweight books with hundreds of pages. However, Lin Fan had just received skillful scanning, so things were much simpler. Everyone heard the sound of someone flipping through a book at high speed from where Lin Fan was sitting. Wave theory, advanced particle research, geographical science. 1, 2, 3. In just 20 minutes, he had finished reading all 10 thick books and memorized all the content. It took 20 minutes to find the books and another 20 minutes to finish reading all the books. Furthermore, he had even mastered all the knowledge in the books. If this was known by others, who knew what they would think? At the same time, a crisp voice rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Ding! Congratulations, you've read Geographical Science, Basics of Geology, Geology and Structure, Mechanics, Basic Research of the Earth's Crust, Wave Theory, Advanced Particle Research, Research and Analysis of Quantum Mechanics, and Law of Earth's Crust Movement. You've obtained the Earthquake Prediction Device and its manufacturing principle. Lin Fan turned his neck and happened to see a girl with black-rimmed glasses next to him. She was frowning at a math question on the table. Her hand that was holding a pen did not move for a long time. It was obvious that she was stumped. Lin Fan had just completed his mission and was in a good mood. He did not mind helping out. Thus, he picked up the pen and paper next to the girl and quickly wrote. After a while, a set of standard answers appeared on the paper and was pushed in front of the girl. Then, Lin Fan picked up a huge pile of books and strolled toward the bookshelves. After Lin Fan left the library, he returned to his dormitory. At this moment, the dormitory was empty and very quiet. Do you wish to claim the Earthquake Prediction Device and its manufacturing principles? Yes. Lin Fan said. Whoosh. In the next moment, a completely black rectangular machine about 1 cubic meter in size appeared in front of him. This was an earthquake forecaster. There was a huge stack of information on top of the earthquake forecaster. At the top of the information, there were 9 big words, the principle behind the construction of the earthquake prediction device. Lin Fan first sized up the black machine and muttered, "This is the earthquake prediction device, right? It looks like a box." Then, he picked up the documents and quickly flipped through them. About 3 minutes later, he had memorized all the information about the building principles of the earthquake prediction device in his mind. I can predict earthquakes 5 days before they happen? That's not bad. Predict earthquakes 5 days before they happened? Not bad? If an earthquake expert heard this, they would probably scream. One had to know that with today's science and technology, it was still impossible to predict an earthquake 5 minutes before it happened, let alone 5 days. Lin Fan yawned, then lay on the bed and fell into a deep sleep. He did not sleep last night. Even though he had violent aesthetics and his body had been strengthened, he was still a little sleepy. In the physics laboratory. Swish! Muffled sounds rose and fell. It only stopped after a long time. Wang Guohai looked at the data on the computer screen and could not help but smile. Let's sort out this data, and we should be able to publish several SCI papers. Zhong Wenting said excitedly. Yes. Wang Guohai nodded. Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and get to work. Zhong Wenting said. Lin Fan's sleep was very comfortable. When a beam of hot sunlight fell on his face, he slowly opened his eyes. Lin Fan lay on the bed and rested for a while. Ding! Ding! At this moment, the phone in his pocket vibrated. 12 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding! Congratulations, you've received 10 yuan. Ding! Congratulations, you've received 1,999 yuan. Ding! Congratulations, you've received 50,000 yuan. Ding! Congratulations, you've received 1 yuan. Today, Lin Fan had earned a total of 72,121 yuan. Lin Fan did not care about the amount of money. He put his phone back into his pocket. Then, he slowly walked out. Not long after Lin Fan left, Zhang Jinbao, Ma Zhong, and Song Yi walked in. What is this? Ma Zhong pointed at the earthquake prediction device and said. If only it was a little higher, it would be perfect as a table, Song Yi said. Zhang Jinbao also took a few curious glances, but he quickly focused his attention on his computer. Before 12 o'clock, the school cafeteria was filled with long queues. Lin Fan did not want to squeeze in with the others, so he drove his Lamborghini to the nearby restaurant. Please visit. Crystal shrimp dumplings, simple stir-fried vegetables, squab soup, stir-fried yellow beef. A simple and affordable lunch of 600 yuan made Lin Fan very satisfied. After the meal, Lin Fan walked out of the restaurant and prepared to return to school. At this moment, a familiar figure appeared not far away. Zhang Song! Lin Fan shouted. Zhang Song was Lin Fan's good friend in high school. The reason why Lin Fan attended the high school reunion was that Zhang Song was one of the people he wanted to meet. Although the man not far away was taller, darker, and thinner than the Zhang Song he knew in high school, Lin Fan was sure that it was his good friend, Zhang Song. The man not far away had obviously heard someone calling him and could not help but turn around. He said in an uncertain tone, "Are you Lin Fan?" Lin Fan saw that he recognized him and said happily, "Ha! It's me. I didn't expect that we would meet here." Zhang Song was also very happy to see his high school friend. He said, "I didn't expect this either. When did you arrive in Jiangbei?" Lin Fan asked. "I've always been in Jiangbei," Zhang Song said. "What? Why didn't you tell me earlier? I've been in Jiangbei all this time. By the way, our class had a party in Jiangbei not long ago." Lin Fan said. Zhang Song said, "Oh. Is that so?" In fact, he knew about the gathering. However, he had not been happy all these years, so he did not attend. Lin Fan said, "I went to the last gathering because I wanted to see a few friends, but all of you didn't go. If I had known, I wouldn't have gone." At this time, Zhang Song's mobile phone rang urgently. "What's wrong, Huiling?" Zhang Song answered the phone. Huiling, whose full name was Zhang Huiling, was Zhang Song's sister. Mom fell to the ground, and her head is bleeding. A flustered voice came from the phone. "What?" "I'll be right back," Zhang Song said anxiously. Lin Fan, who was standing at the side, heard the contents of the phone call clearly. He hurriedly said, "My car's just next door. I'll send you back." "Thanks," Zhang Song said. Then, Lin Fan opened the door of the Lamborghini and quickly got in. Zhang Song was slightly stunned. He did not expect Lin Fan to drive a supercar. "Hurry up and get on," Lin Fan said. Only then did Zhang Song react and quickly get in. If it was not for the phone call just now, Zhang Song would definitely have asked about the supercar out of curiosity. However, at this moment, other than feeling a little surprised, he was more worried. After Lin Fan asked Zhang Song for the exact location, he stepped on the gas. Suddenly, the entire Lamborghini dashed out like a lightning bolt, speeding through the middle of the road. Soon, Lin Fan arrived at the factory in Jianbei City. The factory was an old factory with decades of history. Therefore, it looked a little old on the whole. Zhang Song's home was in the factory's staff compound. Bang! Zhang Song quickly rushed into the house and asked anxiously, "How's Mom?" The woman, whose head was wrapped in gauze, said in a hoarse voice with a trace of blood oozing out, "I'm fine. It's just a small scratch." Then, she said in a slightly reproachful tone, "Huiling, why are you so agitated?" Zhang Huiling's eyes were a little red. Clearly, she was really frightened. At this moment, the woman finally saw Lin Fan behind Zhang Song and said, "This is. I was Zhang Song's high school classmate. We were very good friends." Lin Fan said. "So you're Lil Song's friend. Please take a seat. The house is a little messy. Please don't mind it. I'll go get you some tea." After the woman finished speaking, she limped toward the coffee table. "Mom, I'll get some water," said Zhang Huiling. Obviously, this family was very hospitable. The furniture in Zhang Song's house was relatively old, but it was very neat and tidy. A big clock that was swinging, a steel cup with a red scarf painted on it. Everything seemed very warm and full of life. Lin Fan sipped his tea, feeling extremely relaxed and at ease. Rustle! Rustle! At this moment, the sound of cooking came from the kitchen. Then, a burst of fragrance drifted over. Lin Fan did not want to eat. After all, he had just eaten. However, Zhang Song's mother, Chenli, insisted on cooking. She also said that even if he did not want to eat, he could still sit for a while. Lin Fan could not be stubborn, so he could only stay. Not long after, Chenli and Zhang Huiling carried plates of food and placed them on the table in the living room. Shredded pork with green pepper, seaweed egg soup, cucumber ham, tomato egg. "Lin Fan, come and sit down," Chenli said as she limped to the table. "Sure." Lin Fan replied. Even though he had already had lunch. However, he could not help but start eating when he smelled the fragrance on the table. Lin Fan could not stop eating until his stomach was round and he could not eat anymore. Only then did he put down his bowl and chopsticks. "Aunt, your cooking is really delicious," Lin Fan said sincerely. "Then you'll have to come here often to eat in the future," Chenli said happily. "Then I'll thank you in advance, Aunt," Lin Fan said. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, they chatted for a while. The atmosphere was very warm and harmonious, just like a family. "Aunt, your leg seems to be a big bother," Lin Fan said. "I broke my bone a few years ago, and I've been unable to exert full strength ever since," Chun-Li sighed. "If isn't because of that, Lil Song and Huiling wouldn't be so tired even without their father." At this point, the atmosphere in the house became a little heavy. All the hardships they had gone through all these years came to mind. Lin Fan said, "So, it's your leg. I have a bottle of medicine here. I heard it's very effective. Drink it and try it." Then, Lin Fan spent 10 million yuan on a bottle of medical water. Lin Fan was not lacking in money. Zhang Song was his good friend. When he was in school, he helped him a lot. This meal was also very enjoyable. That was why Lin Fan was willing to help. Chenli saw that it was a small bottle of medicine. Although she did not think that it would have any effect, her leg had been injured for a few years, after all. Chenli was still very happy. After all, this was a kind gesture from her son's friend. "Lin Fan, thank you. Is this for external application or internal consumption? She asked. Aunt, you can just drink it, Lin Fan said. All right, she said. Chenli nodded and drank it without any hesitation. Then, they started to chat again. At this moment, footsteps could be heard from outside. Then, several security guards came in. A middle-aged man with an inch-long beard, Zhou Kaiwei, stood at the very front. He chuckled and said, "Oh, the whole family is here." The moment he opened his mouth, the atmosphere immediately turned cold. Chenli's expression was a little unsightly. "Supervisor Zhou, we have a guest at our house today. If there's anything you need, please come again next time." However, not only did Zhou Kaiwei not leave, but his eyes flickered as he said, "If it was regarding a private matter, I'd definitely leave. However, I'm here to read out the factory's notice and execute the factory's orders. I have to do it regardless of whether there are guests here or not. After all, this is my job." After a pause, Zhou Kaiwei took out a document and read it out in a serious tone. As the factory is continuing to develop and the number of employees is continuing to increase, there's a shortage of staff accommodation. According to the decision of the factory leaders, Zhang Yongliang's dormitory is to be taken back. All staff living in the dormitory should move out immediately. After he finished reading, Zhou Kaiwei continued, "Chenli, you said last time that since there's no notice from the factory, you won't be moving. Now that I do have a notice, you should move, right? This is the house that the factory gave to our family." Chenli said angrily. "Our old Zhang died because of work. The tea is cold when the person is gone, but it shouldn't be like this. Supervisor Zhou, don't you think it's too disappointing and unreasonable? The man died for his job, and now, they were going to take away his house." Their hearts were extremely cold. The more Chenli thought about it, the angrier she got. The more she thought about it, the more her heart ached. Her turbid tears began to well up. However, Zhou Kaiwei was completely unmoved. He said, "You can't talk about reason like this. When Zhang Yongliang died, did you guys receive any compensation? Logically speaking, you should have moved out at that time. However, it's precisely because I pitied you that I've been allowing you to live here until now. Now, there's not enough housing in the factory. I have no choice but to let you move out. I've already done my best." Chenli was even more enraged now. She opened her mouth to speak but ended up coughing violently instead. Zhang Huiling quickly supported Chenli and said, "Mom, are you okay?" Zhang Song shouted, "What do you mean we should move out? Our family has signed a housing contract with the factory before." As he spoke, he took out a yellowed document. Zhou Kaiwei's expression changed slightly when he saw that. He knew of such a contract, but Chenli had not brought it out the past few times he had been here. Therefore, Zhou Kaiwei thought that she lost it. However, when he saw the contents of the contract, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Yes, this is the factory's contract, but look, this is only a 20-year lease contract. It's already been 20 years, and the contract is no longer valid, Zhou Kaiwei said. When the factory built the staff dormitories, they did not have the relevant documents. Therefore, they could only sign a 0 yuan lease contract with each household. However, according to the country's regulations, the longest lease time was 20 years, which was the basis of the contract as well. At this moment, Chenli had already recovered and shouted, "When we signed the contract, the leader clearly said that the contract would be automatically extended when the time was up." "Chenli, you're wrong about that," Zhou Kaiwei said earnestly. "We're in a society ruled by law now, so we need evidence for everything. If the contract states that it's an automatic extension, then I'll turn around and leave without a second word. The problem is that there's no such thing on here. I've already explained my reasoning. Chenli, the factory leaders want you to move out today. Don't make things difficult for me. This is my house. I won't move, Chanli said firmly. If you put it that way, then we might have to take some necessary measures, Zhou Kaiwei said in a deep voice. After saying that, the security guards beside him strode forward as if they had turned into a group of demons. Wait a moment. At this moment, a loud and clear voice rang out from outside. The security guards stopped in their tracks when they heard the voice. Then, a man with a greasy face named Li Changdong walked in quickly. Auntie Chen, Song, Wheeling, you're both at home? Li Changdong greeted Chen Li and the others, and his gaze swept across everyone in the room. As for Zhang Wheeling, he could not help but pause on her for a few more seconds. After a long while, he continued, Uncle Zhou, I just heard about the factory's decision. Is there no room for discussion at all? Changdong, it's not that I'm hard-hearted, said Zhou Kaiwei. It's the factory's rule, I can't do anything about it. There are still many employees in our factory who don't have a house. We can't keep them waiting. His face was filled with helplessness. Are there many employees waiting to be assigned rooms? Li Changdong pondered for a moment and said, I have an idea. Then, Li Changdong looked at Zhang Wheeling and said, Wheeling is going to graduate from college next year. If she comes to work at our factory, won't she also be an employee? When the time comes, won't we still have to give her family a house? So, there's no need for Wheeling and the others to move out now. Zhou Kaiwei was a little hesitant. Yes, Wheeling is going to graduate from university. However, I'm afraid that it'll be a little difficult for her to become a formal employee of our factory. In the past, it was very easy to become a formal employee of the factory. With a little training, one could sign a contract. However, with the development of the times, the urban population had increased. It had become troublesome to sign a formal contract. At first, the requirements were to have a high school degree, then it gradually became a junior college diploma, before eventually becoming a university degree. In fact, even university students had to intern, train, take examinations, and compete with each other before they had a chance to become formal employees. Li Changdong's face relaxed. That's fine. My dad is the general manager now. In 2 years, he might be the factory manager. He'll have some slots to sign contracts with formal employees. If General Manager Li agrees, then I'll have no problem with it. Zhou Kaiwei nodded. Li Changdong turned to Zhang Wheeling, Wheeling, after you graduate next year, come to our factory. What do you think? Zhang Wheeling opened her mouth, unable to make a decision. She could be said to have grown up in the factory. However, it was precisely because of this that she did not want to work in the factory. Zhang Wheeling did not want to be trapped in a factory for the rest of her life. Moreover, Li Changdong had been pursuing her. If she agreed to his request, what would she do in the future? The problem was that she did not like him at all. However, if she did not agree, then the house would probably be taken from them, and the whole family would be driven out. Her mother was still injured and would not be able to survive. Zhang Wheeling was obviously not a fool to be able to get into a university. She bit her red lip and finally opened her mouth to make a decision. At this moment, there was a clear round of applause. What a good show, Lin Fan said. The moment he said that, everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Fan. Changdong, right? There's nothing wrong with liking a girl, but it's not honorable to use such despicable means to get her, right? Lin Fan said calmly. One must know that Lin Fan not only had professor-level mathematics experience. He could even solve world-class problems like Joe's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture. His logical thinking and observation skills were definitely better than many people's. Lin Fan could easily see through everything in front of him. This was all a show put up by Li Changdong and Zhou Kaiwei. The purpose? It was just so that Li Changdong could get Zhang Huiling. Zhang Huiling's facial features were not bad, and her figure was very well proportioned. In addition, she had a temperament unique to college students. It was no wonder that he was so deliberate. Li Changdong obviously realized that he had been seen through. His expression changed as he shouted, "Brat, what nonsense are you talking about?" "You should know very well what I'm talking about," Lin Fan said. "My *SS. Li Changdong shouted. "Who are you?" "My dad is the factory's general manager, Li Dajiang." From Li Changdong's point of view, since Lin Fan had appeared here, he should be a family member of a factory employee. As long as he said his father's name, the other party would definitely have scruples. However, he was overthinking. "So what if your dad is Li Dajiang?" Lin Fan asked. "Even your dad is just a fart." "Brat, you dare to scold my dad?" Li Changdong said angrily. After Lin Fan's reminder, Zhang Song and Chen Li also reacted. They first looked at Zhang Huiling's red eyes and then shouted, "Even if it means we have to give up the house, we'll never sell our daughter." "Li Changdong, get out!" Zhang Song shouted. Li Changdong did not admit it at all. Instead, he became angry from embarrassment and said, "I came here to help out of good intentions, and you're actually yelling at me just because this kid made up some nonsense? You even want me to leave? Truly cruel and unscrupulous. Since that's the case, your family can do whatever they want. When the time comes, don't beg me. Uncle Zhou, just deal with this according to the factory's rules." After saying that, Li Changdong was ready to leave. "Brother Lin Fan?" Outside, there was a sudden burst of surprised shouts. Following that, Sun Luguo and a middle-aged man in a white shirt strode in. After Sun Luguo saw Lin Fan, he called out happily, "I saw your car outside. It really is you, brother Lin Fan?" The first time he had seen Lin Fan was when he was racing with Lu Yuhang. At that time, Lin Fan had displayed his superb driving skills and defeated everyone in one fell swoop. However, he rejected the supercar that was worth 28 million yuan. At that time, Sun Luguo remembered Lin Fan and placed him in the same circle as him. After that, he even helped him find the 100-year-old Ganoderma. The second time he saw Lin Fan was at Song Jiasen's birthday party. Lin Fan displayed his extraordinary chess skills, forcing Lu Yuhang and the Song family's old man to surrender. This caused Sun Luguo to place Lin Fan on the same level as him. The third time he saw Lin Fan was at the temple. Lin Fan had even saved the life of Qin Weiming's grandson. This immediately caused Sun Luguo to feel envious of Lin Fan and have the desire to please him. Today, they had met by chance, so Sun Luguo naturally had to come and greet him. "Oh, so it's you, Sun Luguo." Lin Fan was a little surprised. In contrast to Lin Fan's surprise, Li Changdong, Zhou Kaiwei, and the others' expressions turned serious. They hurriedly said, "Good day, director." The middle-aged man who followed Sun Luguo in was called Peng Bing, and he was the current director of the factory. Peng Bing nodded to them as a form of greeting. Sun Luguo asked, "Brother Lin Fan, why did you come to the factory? Is there something wrong?" Lin Fan said, "It isn't a big deal. It's just that this Changdong wants to pursue my good friend's sister and worked with Supervisor Zhou to chase my good friend's family out." "What?" Sun Luguo's face darkened, and his cold eyes seemed to have turned into sharp arrows that swept over Li Changdong, Zhou Kaiwei, and the others. In movies and novels, people with money and power often acted tyrannically and did all kinds of evil. However, real young masters were very shameless about such things. Sun Luguo was one of them. Furthermore, the target of this threat was Lin Fan's good friend's family. This made Sun Luguo even angrier. In the past, I've never heard of such a thing happening in the factory, Sun Luguo said coldly. Director Pang, if you can't manage the factory well, I think it's better to replace you with someone more capable. As soon as he said this, a layer of cold sweat appeared on Pang Bing's forehead. Who was Sun Luguo? He was the young master of the Sun family's pharmaceutical company. His status as a factory director was a high and mighty existence in the eyes of many. However, it meant nothing in front of Sun Luguo. It was no exaggeration to say that as long as Sun Luguo wanted to, he might have to pack up and leave tomorrow. Pang Bing panicked and said, "This. During this time, I've been busy with the development of the factory, so I've relaxed the management of my employees. I didn't do my job well in this matter. I'll definitely give young Master Sun and brother Lin Fan a satisfactory answer." Then, Pang Bing said sternly, "Supervisor Zhou. What's going on?" Supervisor Zhou stammered, but he could not give a proper explanation. Zhang Song. Lin Fan turned his head. "Since Supervisor Zhou can't speak clearly, why don't you help him out?" Zhang Song took a deep breath and explained the entire matter. After Pang Bing heard this, he was so angry that he trembled and shouted, "Threats? You wanted to kick them out? Good, very good. Is this how you treat a hero who sacrificed his life for the construction of the factory? You bastard." Then, he took out his phone and dialed a string of numbers. "Li Dajiang, I'm in the staff dormitory. Come over now." Then, Pang Bing made 2 more calls. "Bring me the document with Li's name on it at the bottom of my desk. Captain Huang, please come to the factory staff dormitory." After a while, a man with a big belly jogged in. He was Li Dajiang. When Li Dajiang saw the situation in front of him, he had a guess in his heart. Zhang Song and the others had found the factory director and wanted him to help uphold justice. However, Li Dajiang was not too afraid. It was because he had already prepared an excuse. He believed that Pang Bing would give him face. "Factory Director Pang, I've spent a lot of time these days cleaning up the staff dormitory registration forms. I found a total of 3 idle units and 1 occupied unit. These are the only assets we have in our factory. They should be used in the most reasonable way. I know that this might cause some dissatisfaction, but it's necessary." Li Dajiang opened his mouth and placed himself in a position of duty. He believed that Pang Bing would definitely turn to his side. However, this was only his wishful thinking. Pang Bing said sternly, "Is this the reason you wanted to force and drive away the family members of the employee who sacrificed his life for the factory?" Li Dajiang did not expect Pang Bing to be so harsh, and his heart jumped slightly. "You're making use of your high position. This will damage the reputation of the factory. Li Dajiang, from now on, you're no longer the general manager of the factory." Pang Bing said. Pang Bing still clearly remembered Sun Luguo's cold words. He understood that if he did not satisfy Sun Luguo and Lin Fan, he would definitely be in deep trouble. Since that was the case, the culprit, Li Dajiang, must be severely punished. Li Dajiang shouted, "What? Director Pang, I'm only doing this for the sake of the factory's property. You can't just listen to one side of the story. Furthermore, I've done a lot for the factory over the years. Director Pang, you can't fire me so easily. In Li Dajiang's opinion, even if Peng Bing knew the real reason, he would at most reprimand him with a few words. He never thought that Peng Bing would fire him directly. For a moment, he was caught off guard. However, what Li Dajiang did not expect was just the beginning. At this moment, a woman of medium build walked in her high heels. "Director Peng, these are the documents you wanted." As she spoke, the woman handed over the document folder with both hands. Peng Bing took out the documents inside and read, in January 2013, the Mishu equipment, which only had a factory worth 1 million yuan, was sold for 200,000 yuan and received a benefit fee of 300,000 yuan. In November 2013, 700,000 yuan worth of inferior products were purchased and 200,000 yuan of service fees were received. In May of 2014, building number 5 of the factory was built, and a benefit fee of 800,000 was collected. After hearing these words, Li Dajiang's whole body was covered in a cold sweat. His clothes were quickly wet, and his whole face was pale. These were all things he had done. Why? How did the director know so much? Li Dajiang, is this what you've been doing for the factory? Peng Bing said coldly. Peng. Factory Director Peng, you. Let me explain, Li Dajiang was extremely flustered. However, he did not give any explanation. After all, these were all things he had really done, and there was no way to explain it. At this moment, a series of police sirens sounded outside. Then, 2 burly investigators walked in quickly. Peng Bing said, "Explain?" "You can explain it to the police." After he finished speaking, he passed the information to the square-faced officer standing in front of him. "Captain Huang, I'll have to trouble you." Seeing this, Li Dajiang's body finally went soft and fell to the ground. Not only did he lose his job as the general manager, but he might even have to go to jail. It was over, completely over. Then, Peng Bing said carefully, "Young master's son, brother Lin Fan, what do you think of this?" Sun Luhua did not reply but looked at Lin Fan. "Zhang Song, what do you think?" Lin Fan asked. Ah. It's alright," Zhang Song nodded. He was still in a state of shock, unable to extricate himself. The factory's general manager was dismissed in front of him and even arrested? Peng Bing understood that whether or not Sun Luhua and Lin Fan were satisfied today depended on Zhang Song's family. Zhang Yongliang sacrificed his life for the factory, but we're letting his family live in such a shabby place. "We've done a bad job," he said hurriedly. "I'll give you guys a house in the Northern District later." The Northern District was large and well arranged, and even the general management staff could not live there. At this time, how could Li Dajiang not know that the reason why he ended up like this today was completely caused by his son forcing Zhang Song's family? Thinking of this, Li Dajiang stepped forward and slapped Li Changdong's face. He scolded, "It's all your fault, you bastard." After the officers took Li Dajiang away, Zhou Kaiwei and Li Changdong were fired, and Zhang Song's family's matter was considered to have come to an end. "I'm really sorry that such an infuriating thing happened in my hands," Peng Bing apologized again. Then, he looked at his watch and said, "It's almost time for a meal. Let me treat everyone to a meal. It's my apology. Please do me the honor." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned his gaze to Lin Fan. "Sure." Lin Fan nodded. Upon hearing this, Peng Bing heaved a long sigh of relief. As long as Lin Fan agreed to have a meal together, it meant that he was satisfied with the outcome. Feng Lai Hotel, Zhangbei, room 888. The table was filled with gold squab, Australian lobster, abalone with sea cucumber, and so on. When had Zhang Song and the others ever eaten such expensive dishes? At first, they were a little restrained, but after Lin Fan helped them take some food a few times, they slowly let go and stuffed their mouths. Pang Bing, on the other hand, toasted Lin Fan and Sun Luguo from time to time. This meal could be said to be very enjoyable for both the host and the guest. After leaving Fenglai Hotel, Pang Bing could not help but ask, "Young Master Sun, this brother Lin Fan? What's his identity?" The leaders of Jiangbei City and Jiang Province are all trying to please him. What do you think? Sun Luguo glanced at him and said. Sun Luguo was definitely not joking. One must know that Lin Fan had saved Qin Weiming's grandson. In fact, Qin Weiming even personally went to congratulate Lin Fan's grandfather on his birthday. Pang Bing's heart started beating wildly when he heard this. Even the leaders of Jiangbei and Jiang Province wanted to please him? Brother Lin Fan's identity was definitely heaven-defying. At the factory's dormitory, the big pendulum clock let out a crisp sound that was light and pleasant to the ear. After taking a sip of cold water, Chenli was about to stand up when Zhang Huiling, who was beside her, quickly said, "Mom, I'll help you." In the next moment, Chenli's expression changed slightly as she said, "Wait. Wait, don't help me." Then, she took a few more steps forward. She walked steadily and forcefully without a trace of pain. Her injured leg from a fall a few years ago had recovered. "Mom, your leg. Have you healed?" Zhang Huiling said. "Yes, I've recovered. I'm completely fine now." Chenli said excitedly. Then, she suddenly thought of the medicine that Lin Fan had given her. She quickly said in a serious tone, "Lil Song, you have to repay Lin Fan in the future." "All right," Zhang Song said. In the next few days, Lin Fan went to class, ate, and slept. His days were very relaxed and peaceful. At the same time, in Physics Laboratory 104 of Jiangbei University, as usual, the large equipment made a rhythmic sound, and many LED lights were flashing. Wang Guohai looked at the equipment from time to time, then at the computer screen, his face full of contemplation. "That's great." At this moment, Zhang Wenting rushed in excitedly and shouted. Wang Guohai frowned and was about to say something. Zhang Wenting held up a magazine and shouted, "Professor Wang, the paper on the earthquake H particle has been officially published by PNAS. Quick, let me see." Wang Guohai said in surprise. The two PhD students who were doing experiments also stopped. Their faces were filled with joy as they quickly surrounded him. It was no wonder they were so excited. PNAS was a top physics journal, and it was a great honor to publish a paper in it. Wang Guohai looked at the paper in the middle and said happily, "Good, good, that's great." After the two PhD students read the paper, their smiles became even wider. This was because there were a total of 5 people's names in the thesis. The first 2 names listed were Wang Guohai and Zhang Wenting. After that, it was Lin Fan, Tang Ziyu, and Ding Peng. Tang Ziyu and Ding Peng were the names of these 2 PhD students. This would definitely be of great help to their future. Lin Fan had only solved some calculations, but his name appeared third. This was already very rare. At this moment, Wang Guohai's phone rang with a light ringtone. He looked at the caller ID and saw that it was Deng Kaiwan, the dean of the School of Physics. Professor Wang, Director Feng Jixiang of the Institute of Science and Professor Li Jing of Huaqing University have come to our Jiangbei University. If you have time now, please come to conference room 1 of the School of Physics with Professor Zhong Wenting, Deng Kaiwan said heartily. All right, we'll be right there, Wang Guohai said. After hanging up the phone, Wang Guohai told Zhong Wenting what Deng Kaiwan had said. At the same time, in conference room 1, there were more than a dozen scholars, experts, and professors sitting there. They were having a series of discussions on academic and scientific research. The atmosphere was extremely intense. Creak. Creak. At this moment, the door of the meeting room was slowly pushed open. Some experts were so focused on thinking and discussing that they did not even notice the door opening. Meanwhile, Dean Deng Kaiwan, who was sitting directly opposite the main entrance, immediately saw them. Professor Wang Guohai, Professor Zhong Wenting, please sit down, Deng Kaiwan said. The white-haired professor named Li Jing stopped the discussion and said, Professor Wang, Professor Zhong, I just saw your paper on the H particle in PNAS. It's really wonderful. After he finished, he took out a copy of PNAS. Thank you for your praise, Professor Li, Wang Guohai replied. We just made a small discovery. Professor Wang, you're too humble. The discovery of the H particle fluctuation in the earthquake will be of great help to the future research of the earthquake forecast. Li Jing said. Oh? An earthquake prediction device? Is there any hope of researching it? Department Director Feng Zhixiang, who was wearing black-rimmed glasses, quickly asked. As the director of the institute, he knew very well how important an earthquake prediction device was. Li Jing thought for a moment and said, before a person starts exercising, their neurons will send out signals that direct their limbs. Nature will also send out similar signals before an earthquake, and the H particle is one of them. If we can crack all the signals, there should be hope for us to invent an earthquake detection device. These kinds of signals are usually very complicated, Li Jing said. It's already very rare for Professor Wang and Professor Zhong to be able to calculate the trajectory of the H particle. You must have spent a lot of time, right? Wang Guohai nodded in agreement. They had indeed spent a lot of time calculating the trajectory, but they had not succeeded at all. Actually, I didn't calculate this trajectory, he said helplessly. Oh? Then who calculated it? Li Jing said in surprise. Professor Li, just take a look at the third name and you should know, Wang Guohai said. Li Jing really had not seen the third name. This was because the people whose names were positioned behind were usually just given a chance by the main researcher to show themselves. They did not participate much in the overall thesis. Lin Fan? Li Jing opened the PNAS journal and looked at the name again. Could this be the person who solved Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture? That's right. It's him. Wang Guohai nodded.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and see you in the next chapter.